Hello. What's happening, people? And welcome to Sunday Live, edition number 168. What's up? You guys see me okay? You can hear me okay? I hope so. And what's going on this week? Well, let's make sure the stream's good. Somebody just let me know in the bottom of the stream if you can see me okay, if everything's good. Let's see. These rockers always late, says Evan. Yeah, I was a little bit late. Sorry. I was on the phone. Sorry. Anyways, what do we got here? Fran says, let's have a relaxing convo today. And I agree. Let's do that. Let's have a relaxing conversation for relaxing times. Make it Suntory times. No, this is not whiskey. It's coffee. Delish. Okay, so I put out the Mick Mars Marshall, Richard Fortus Marshall video this week. That was fun. Hopefully you dug. I enjoyed putting that out. That amp sounds really cool. It's kind of special. I've been trying to get my Germino dialed in to just see if I can get it the same. And actually, I must say we haven't yet. So there's something really special about it. And Richard articulated it in the video. He said, yeah, 2K, it's got teeth. That's the part that I just can't quite, it's got this certain mid thing that's like, what is going on with that amp? So it's interesting, but could be the tubes. My amp, which is the modded Germino I have, has the EL34Bs, which are known for more bottom end, the Chinese tubes. And Richards was retubed with EL34s. And they definitely are going to have less bottom. So maybe take that out of the equation. Then all of a sudden that mid comes into focus. So maybe play with that this week. We'll see, if I have time and stuff like that to kind of sort it out. Anyway, and then yesterday I put out a video that we can talk about if you like. For this video, the Scream Honey, which I've talked about before, it's a nice pedal. Some of the comments are interesting, where people are sort of disputing what I said about it, which is that, and sort of the angle, the official angle from CKK, which is just a guy. It's this guy Wu Nan, who's a guitar pedal nut over in China. And he's a really nice guy, and he makes great pedals. And most of their pedals are not some limited edition. But he told me, he goes, hey, I found these vintage components. I don't know exactly what's vintage in the pedal, but he said, I found, it might be a chip, it might be whatever. But he said, I found enough to make just like a couple hundred. And I think it's actually 170 of them. So I'm going to build them up and I make this pedal. And some people are like, that's a bunch of BS and it's marketing. I can't believe anybody's falling for this and stuff. Sorry, Fran. I know you wanted to have a relaxing conversation, but I just wanted to, well, we don't have to get into it right now, but we can touch on it at some point because it's not BS. These things happen all the time in the pedal world and also in the amp world, where there's certain components and caps and stuff like that and things, chips, for certain pedals that just aren't made anymore. You can't get them. Like, I'll give you a quick example and then we can touch on it again later because I got a super chat I got to get to here. But analog choruses, the original chips that were made in the 70s or whatever, when original analog choruses were made. I know this from when Kevin Sir was designing the Alexa for Sir. He said, you can't get them anymore, and it's a problem for headroom. So he had to design the circuit in such a way, and it was complicated, so that he could get enough headroom. Because I don't know if you've tried a lot of modern analog choruses, but many of them don't have any damn headroom. And that's what's going on. You're playing with humbuckers. Like, who turned on the overdrive when you turn on the chorus? That's a thing. You can't get that chip anymore from the 70s that they used to make them with. So they used to have more headroom. I don't know. This is not news or something, it's not just marketing or whatever. Jay is up there in the super chat and he says, morning, Pete, have you had a chance to play through the new Friedman BE Mini? I have, no. There's another one I played through though. That's a mini one coming out. That's sort of similar that I played through for a minute, but I actually haven't played the BE Mini. So haven't checked it out yet. I know it seems like it's going to be popular, like a lot of folks have said, oh, that's cool. It's a, little BE. I think it's basically similar to I don't know exactly like what's changed, but it's similar to like a BE pedal circuit with a power amp and stuff. And so it's not really an amp you're going to buy for clean. You're going to get it for the dirty tone, that BE tone, but it sounds great in the videos they put out and stuff. So there you go. It's a cute little thing, that's meant for fun, for rocking at home. All right. What else we got here? Let's see. Was the same with Bucket Brigade chips in delays. Yeah, it's the same. The Bucket Brigade chips, the old analog ones. That's right. That was El Rondo. The old analog choruses and delays and everything. They use these Bucket Brigade chips. You can't get them anymore. You can't get the same ones. So you've had to find alternatives, and many times they just don't have the same specs. So then you need to build a circuit that's different in order to, so this isn't news. I mean, people are like, oh, you could definitely get some, you know, the comments in the video. So you can definitely get companies to manufacture, you know, the components the same. Not really. Like, you know, that's not actually a thing. It's like, you hear it all the time with pedal manufacturers and amp manufacturers. Like, we had to kind of like redesign. I was talking about it with Friedman with amps. It's like many times like caps become obsolete. The company just doesn't make them anymore. You can't get them in a, you know, when you order them, you're ordering hundreds or thousands for amps, right? They're not available anymore. What's a substitute we can get now? You know, that's what happens. So it's not BS, you know, it's true. It's not to BS. It's true. Greg T's up there in the super chat. He says, other than the NUX Solid Studio, are there other IR loader pedals that can be connected between the power amp output and the speaker input with an amp? Sorry, I got to put on my glasses. God, man. Any eye surgeons out there? Between the power amp output and the speaker input with an amp sim that can be turned off. Between the power amp output and the speaker input. Well, if you use a line out box, you can use like the SIR line out box, for instance. It just connects. That's exactly what it does. Here, I'll show it to you. I think I got one. Conveniently, I should have one right here. If I can't find it in a second, I'll come back, but I want to show you what it does. It's so dark to see. I know I have one here somewhere, but I don't want to waste your time. Oh, haha. Generally, it works out when I do that. I'm like, I know there's one right there. That's the SIR line out box. So you can get one of these. You plug your amp in here, and then you run a line out to your speaker. And then, oh, no, sorry. Speaker through. So you plug your amp in, and then you just run this through to the speaker. From the amp out to the speaker. This is a line out then, and you've got a pot to control it. And you've got a phase switch as well as a ground lift. This will allow you to do it with multiple different pedals. Okay. I know I got a couple other super chats here I'm probably going to miss. I'll go down to the bottom of the chat and get them in a sec. But just to give you a more detailed answer. So that you can totally do that with this. I think what's the one that you mentioned? The NUX Solid Studio. Like, so in other words, if you had a Strymon Iridium, you could turn off the amp sim, turn on the cab sim, send a line out to it using this, and then you'd have your cab sim going to the PA or whatever. You know what else is built to do it is the SIR Ace. It's an analog box, analog speaker sim, but that's what it's designed to do is it's, you know, speaker in, line out, pass a signal through to the speaker if you want to, and then you can just simply do exactly what you're talking about. Sorry, my brain's not working right today. I feel like I'm flowing yet. I'll get into it in a minute. What else? I'm trying to think of other ones. What about the cab M, the 2 notes? Because you could do that too. Is it got a speaker through? I think it does. I just can't remember right now. It might. But anything that doesn't have a speaker through, you can use this. This is a cheap, simple box that allows you to just tap. This just taps a signal on the way to your speaker and allows you to get a line out so you can send out to different things and do exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Let me catch those other ones. Other super duper chats. Oh, it's Scott. Thanks, Scott. Scott Hernandez. And he's just saying hello. Thanks, buddy. T-top. I like T-tops. Solid pickups. AC/DC tones. Thanks for the great Friat PS100 demo. I was going to get my 50 watt plexi modded, but went this route. And it's a game changer. It's so much better, right, than modding an old vintage amp. I mean, keep your amp pristine and use it with other amps. It's just a no-brainer. Once you get one, you're like, this is totally solves the problem, you know? Look no further if you need a reamp solution. Maybe if you want to add some effects, you know, to your plexi or AC30 or whatever you've got. Yeah. John says, I love a good clone, but preferred the sound of the Scream Honey to your Archer. Yeah, I mean, it's you know, if you want some sizzly, cool, you know, it sounds like, you know, that it's if I had to compare it to another pedal, it would be like that Boss, you know, is it the Super Overdrive or the original Boss, the yellow one, you know? But and I didn't directly A/B them or anything like that to see if I could get close with the Boss, but the Boss lops off low end, so it's a little different. You know, this one kept the low end, all low end, and then like just added these exciting harmonics and stuff on top, and just made them more. It just sounded like an exciter, like I said, you know, in the video. So really cool, you know. I will say this: their website is slow. A bunch of people commented in the Scream Honey video the website is slow and they can't seem to order it. And it's like, I put a link to their regular website, and if you're interested in one, it's just a little company, like I say, it's a guy, you know, over there. So send him an email in the contact form, because I contacted him. He said, yeah, my website's really slow, but I've been getting a ton of emails and I will get back to everybody. So if you're interested, you know, send him an email at the contact form at the main CKK website link and just say, saw this in Pete's video, I'm interested, and he will email you back. He's really good on email. He's very fast. So yeah. Let's just grab this while we're here. Can you explain some of the differences between the RSA 31 and the King Royale and what you like about each? I noticed that the RSA 31 had a little bit more of it was really close, because they're both AC30s, really. It has a little bit more of a mid scoop, maybe, or a little bit bigger bottom end or something. The King Royale sounded maybe a little more straight up AC30 to me, with the chimey penetrating upper mid thing, you know. The RSA also has the click channel in it, which is this one with this 5-position tone switch, and then so this is a pentode channel, different tube. What is it? An EF? No, it's not an EF86. It's a 5789 or something, a US style pentode tube, but it would be similar, I guess, sort of in some ways, to an AC15 channel. With that that pentode tube. It's just one preamp tube in the front end on this channel on the RSA. And I don't tend to use that channel that much, but I guess some people like them in this way. The tone switch just allows you to it's a 5-position click thing that allows you to add more low end, as I remember. And then this is basically a top boost channel. Now on the top hat version, this is the top boost channel. And then this is basically like a Vox normal channel. But it's got an added tone control on it. And the added tone control is not like an original Vox, because an original Vox wouldn't have had one. So what I actually had it modded so I can turn that tone control off. So you get a straight up, you know, normal channel. Probably get a little more gain without the tone control there. And a little less sparkle, but the idea being that I wanted to be able to hit it with a range master and get a true Brian May sound. So I haven't tried that yet, actually, but that's what I had done and just haven't had time. But I do want to, you know, get a range master clone or something like that. That's why I have a bunch of treble boosters here, so I can try something and see what it sounds like with, because I love that sound, as you probably know. I love that tone. So that's the difference. Is a couple other things. I mean, the RSA does have, the top hat has an effects loop in it, and it actually has a master volume, neither of which are on the RSA. But I just tend to turn the master on 10 on the top hat, and I don't really use the loop. So there's just a couple different flavors of Boutique AC30 is all they are. Henrik is up there in the super duper chat. He says, love the Mick Mars Marshall video. What was that amber single cut guitar? That's my Leo Scala guitar. My Scala Underdog. So Leo is he's a artist, really. He builds beautiful guitars. Check out his Instagram and stuff. You'll find him. Look for Leo Scala, Scala. He's built interestingly enough, maybe, or maybe it's not, but I think it is that he built a guitar for Richard Fortus that's exactly like mine. And I played it. And I loved it. And then he took it and he sent it off to Richard, and I ordered another one from Leo that day. It was funny. I was living in Santa Monica, and I met him in Santa Monica many years ago, just kind of randomly. And he was building guitars for folks like Richard and stuff like that. And we got talking and stuff like that. Just met him randomly. And he said, I got to show you one of my guitars sometime. And I was like, sure. And so that's when he came by my studio and brought me that guitar. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's actually really cool. And so I ordered another one on the spot. True story. I got that Scala guitar the day before I was going. Actually, it was the day before I had to ship gear off to go on tour to Japan for the first time when I went over there with Tyoshi Nagabuchi. And so I thought, okay, I got it in a parking lot. I met him in a Starbucks parking lot, literally in Santa Monica, and he showed me the guitar, and I was like, this is amazing, you know? And I put it in my vault and sent it to Japan because I had to cargo the gear that day. And it left. And when I got to Japan, it was this brand new guitar that I really hadn't tried. And it became my main guitar on that tour. I needed a good Les Paul style guitar for that gig. And it just ended up being the one that I played all tour. So terrific guitar. When you bend vibrato, do you go sharp and back to pitch? P and back. Or could you demonstrate your whammy bar vibrato techniques or make a video on it? Yeah, sure. When you bend vibrato, do you go sharp and back? I don't go sharp and back generally. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, isn't it funny when people ask you about things about your playing and you're like, I don't know. What do you mean? I never really put any. I'm having trouble finding guitar picks lately. Here's a box of picks. So when no, I never go sharp. It goes to the note, drops, and comes back, generally speaking. Never. That'd be the difference. So yeah, never that. Yeah, not a thing I do. I don't know. What else we got here? Let's see. Did I miss any super chats? I think I did. So go back and take a look and see some other questions as well. There we go. So when I missed. Do you have any tips on figuring out vocal harmonies when you're preparing for gigs? It's hard sometimes. That is a skill that, I mean, I basically use the same ear skills, I guess, that I use for guitar parts. But it can be difficult. It's a thing that's I'm sure, you know, real singers are they get really good at it, but it's tough. I'll reference live recordings. It's one thing that you can do because sometimes you can hear the harmonies in a different way, maybe not better, maybe worse, but maybe they're panned out, or, you know, so it's good to listen to live recordings, and many times that helps, I think, when they're not in the studio soup. You know, it's a little more raw sometimes. So that would be one good thing. Excuse me. Oh, brother. Sorry. So how does the new Pt100 Facelift sound? That's right. So we brought out a new version of the Pt100 that is more in line with let me see if I can quickly find a photo of it here. It's more in line with the PT15 look. Same Tolex from the PT15. And same knobs and same faceplate. So let's see here. Oh, it's Instagram, so you can't turn it sideways. You should know that by now. And the camera's over here. Oh, and I have to focus the lens on it. But there it is. Can you see that? Oh, God. It's so professional around here. Anyways, you can go to the website and see it. Now I got to refocus my camera for me. Let's see. How's that? Good. That's nice. Good. There you go. Anyways, piping as well that we did from the PT15. It's beautiful. They did a beautiful job on it. Check it out on the website. I feel like I mean, I like the other ones too, you know, but I feel like we finally arrived at a really, like, I don't know, I guess because it takes a minute maybe sometimes when you're, you know, developing things and stuff like that. And I feel like this one is just I love the brushed faceplate, and I love the font. And these are all things that I'd never thought about before ever bringing out an amp, you know, font, or doing YouTube and making thumbnails and things. Like, yeah, font is the thing. The type of, the way you print, you know, like a Marshall Plexi, the way that the Plexi's on top of the, you know, or like an aluminum panel Marshall. It's like things like that you discover as you go, right? The logo, whether or not there's a back on the logo that kind of outlines the logo, or whether it's just the logo, which can look kind of, you know, it just depends, you know, all these things with design. And I love the Tolex too, because that's the Tolex I picked out for the PT15. And I don't know, I just think it looks super classy. So it sounds the same. as the other one. You know, we haven't changed the designer thing. We just kind of updated the look. But one other thing that we did do is bring out a 412 cabinet. So that's something that's never really been there in the PT line. Sure, you could get 412s, custom audio 412s or 412s, but now we've got a dedicated Pt100 412 that's got 2 greenbacks in the top, 2 V30s in the bottom, and it's the same Tolex and matches the new head and everything, as well as the matching horizontal 212 from the original amp, you know, with the cream. So different speakers in that one. Those are the creamback 75s. I like them both, you know, so it's just what we decided to do. What else we got here? What else we got here? Some super chats. I need a little primer on 12AX7s. I use MTS preamp modules. Okay, the good old Randall modular. Which MTS module is specialized? Oh, each MTS module is specialized. How do you choose? Let's see. SLO and Budo. You know, I just know what I like. I mean, for modern tubes, if we're talking about, let's stick to just new production. If you can still find some tested, the tested Chinese EL34B, which you can still find them. It's like, you know, look at Doug's Tubes or the Tube Store, and you should be able to find them. Just get 4 or 5 of those and pop them in there. Those are really good for those, the SLO thing, high gain, you know. Other new tubes I like. I tried that new JJ, which is the E83cc, not the old ECC 83. Well, I never liked those very much because they always sound like a blanket on the tone, but that new E83cc, which is a copy of the really small plate Tesla, that tube sounded really good to me. Doesn't sound dark, doesn't sound shrill either, just sounded really good. So you could check that out. And then the other one that I like that's new production is the 7025 from EH. Sounds good. They're a little lower gain, a little bit, which might not be a bad thing, just depends. Just going to run back through the chat here and randomly get a few of these. Why do some have a polarity switch and some don't on old super leads? That's a good question. It could have been export for different countries or things like that, different laws. The polarity switch was a thing that was going out of fashion, I think, by the, right, like the mid to late 70s, generally speaking, because, you know, grounding changed. I don't really understand that when we went from 2-prong to 3-prong plugs and all that in the US, but obviously that was an issue back in the day where you'd flip the cord, then get an awful shock and stuff. So yeah, at some point they figured out polarity and started putting 3-prong, you know, started making it consistent. And I just don't know when that was. And I don't know in different countries when that was. So it's a good question. It's a good question for a Marshall person. I assume it was probably, you know, different in the UK than it was in the US and stuff. And they would, you know, probably do different things with the amps. Oh, I already answered that one. Sorry about that. Do you have a favorite low watt, 5 watts and lower amp? I loved the original Sir Corso, which was about 5 watts. That was a really cool little amp that I did a video on. I love my 1 watt Marshall, which you can actually see sitting up there. Those little, the little JTM 45 one is called a JTM 1, I think. So they only made them for like a year or something, then they quit producing them. But I love that thing. If you can find a used one, they're cool. That one and the 70s one were cool. The what was it called? JMP one. I really like those two the most, I think. They're very cool. Yeah. And I got another top chat up here. Let's see. Rick Lowe says, plus I distribute, oh, that's interesting. I distribute CKK for the UK and I know Woo well. Rick Lowe. Rick, so Woo's a guitar nerd, just like we are, right? And he's one guy and it really is like a boutique kind of operation almost, right? That's my gathering. I've never played a pedal of his that I didn't like. Like I love them all, you know? I think people can have this preconceived notion that pedals coming from China, and maybe that's the majority of them. Oh, there's a lot of knockoffs, right? There is. But this company isn't that, you know, it's kind of like SE microphones. You know, there was a lot of knockoffs coming out of China of large diaphragm mics and stuff like that. They can make them cheap, and there's a lot of contract manufacturing and stuff. But once I read up on the SE guy, who's a total audiophile and microphone nerd, he just loves mics. There's folks over there, just like in any other place, that are just totally into audio or totally into guitar or love old Marshalls and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's part of the, I guess, part of the backlash. Yeah, I haven't really thought about it yet. to that extent, but that's what's going on with the kind of the negative comments in the I don't think people would blink or bat an eye if the Klon guy said, oh, I've found, 100 chips and I've made some, with the old case or whatever, and I'm going to sell them for $700 each because I can, or whatever, the components, right? But if somebody does it over in, overseas in China or something like that, all of a sudden they're saying, oh, that's BS, and I don't think that that's true. That's not BS. That's, you know what I'm getting at. Scott says, I still owe you a few drinks. See you in January. I hope so. Up there in the super chat. You don't owe me a thing, my friend. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know I missed some super chat. Oh, Jack Murphy. Jack Murphy's up there. He's in Europe. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. He didn't ask a question. He was just saying hello. Let's see. James Bell says, thanks for your Sunday show, Pete. In bed feeling rotten after vaccine. I get my second this week, so around Thursday, we'll see next Sunday. I'll be joining you for a day or two, in the bad feels department. Guitar gear talk is just what the doctor ordered. Spent yesterday failing to balance the pickups of an HSS S style with the humbucker split. Sudoku for guitarists. Yeah, it can be hard sometimes getting single coils to balance just right. I know that's true. That's very true. Wow, I got so many super chats to get to here. I want to answer all these. My knees hurt is also asking if I'm spending $200 for 2 speakers, monitors, are they all about the same at that price point? My digital audio workstation is on my pedalboard amp. I can just tell you in that price range, my friend, I like the Yamaha stuff quite a bit. And also you can get relatively low price Atom stuff these days. I don't know if it's that cheap. $200 is really cheap for a pair of monitors. So if you can find a pair of Yamahas, I would go that way. Or maybe like used K-Rocks. Those are pretty good. The Rocket, is that what they're called? The K-Rocks? But nice little monitors. K-ROK. Find a pair of those maybe. Let's see. Glaucomo is up there in the super chat. He says, how can I write you business related? I wrote you a couple times during these last months, but it seems you didn't get those. I'm sorry, man. Just send me an email. My email is petethorn@ymail.com. Hit me there. And I'm terrible on email these days, but it's just, I'm just overwhelmed like most people with, I will get back to you. Be like, it's me. Send me one every 3 days until I get back to you. Don't everybody out there do that. No, don't do that, actually. Don't do that. Okay. Finally put a damn Thornbucker, says James F. Oh, and the chat disappeared. God, they're coming in hot and heavy here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to try and get to all these. I'll get back to the Thornbucker one in just a second. Stan says, your thoughts on Strat treble bleed mods. I just use the SIR circuit. I have one. You know what? I don't know what's on my Fender because I didn't do it. And there's I don't actually know what's in my Fender Strat right now. I have no idea. John put in a pickup in it years ago, an ML standard, which is the V63 now. There may be one in there, but I'm not sure. In my SIRs, my regular ones, it's the standard cap resistor, whatever the SIR value, whatever that is. And I like treble bleed if it's done right. Put them in there. Don't think about it twice. A lot of people get really picky about it. I'm like, my SIRs always sounded great. Whatever they use is fine. It sounds uniform on the way down to me. So that's all I care about. When I don't have one on some guitars are fine, like old Les Pauls and stuff. It's cool. Don't have one in my Yaren or my 335 or those guitars, But on some guitars, like more modern, this guitar, I want in my signature guitar, I want it really uniform all the way down. As long as it's uniform, that's all I care about. Have you tried the new Quilter Superblock UK or American version, says Arthur? I haven't. I mean, literally, I probably saw them same time as you guys, which I think they just came out this week, so I haven't seen any of those. But the British one sounded, I saw Jay Leonard's video for it, and it sounded good. I thought, sounded pretty good, I thought, in the video. Yeah. Dave Friedman just released a BE Mini BEOD plus 30 watt solid state power amp. Yeah. Do you see this as a new trend? Well, yeah. I mean, in a way, okay, just amps getting smaller and people doing things like this. Sure, it is kind of a trend, right? People, pandemic. I mean, people playing at home, right? So they want little things that they can play with, you know, not on the gig. I mean, in general, there's been a shift towards folks playing at home, enjoying guitar, quieter, all that stuff over the years. So I do see it as a trend, yeah. And it's something that we're all looking at, you know, be it in little amp form, pedal form. I mean, really, the PT15 was part of that trend, you know, an amp that you can plug in direct. It's not a mini amp, but it's not really that big. I mean, it's like, you know, how much more difficult is it to carry a PT15 than a thing that's this big or this big? It's very light, you know. So that my idea, at least as kind of a, you know, an all-rounder was the PT15 is something you can actually use on a loud gig too. That you know, is a true tube amp, has all the, you know, so it's, you can think of the PT15 as actually, you can also plug it in, you know, direct into a studio monitor or full range or whatever, or what, it's got a great master. You can play it quiet through a cabinet, all that good stuff. Yeah. Travis, Japanese whiskey, really, dude, come on. I spent a lot of time in Japan. Let me tell you, you know, the Japanese win all the whiskey awards these days. Sorry, don't mean to get blasphemous to anybody's out there in Scotland, but you know it's true. Don't get butthurt. It's true. They win the awards. They do at all these contests. I don't know about high-end whiskey contests, but it's, you know, they got some nice whiskey over there in Japan. Come on, give me some of that hibiki on the rocks. Suntory is just like, might as well be drinking Crown Royal, really, but it's fine, you know, for whiskey and soda or some ginger ale, whatever. Don't get all snobby on me now. There's the fellow with the Thornbucker. It's James. He says, I finally put a damn Thornbucker in the neck of my old PRS. I love it. It's so clear and open, and loves analog octave up fuzz. That's rad. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you're bordering on single coil because it's got a really open sound. It's like a nice hot single coil, isn't it? It's you know, got a great clarity to it, like you say, not too much bottom end in it. Yeah, I'm sure it would work great with Octavia. Okay. Any gigs penciled in for this year? Talking about things, but not yet. Somebody's up there in the super chat that I missed, I think. It just disappeared, didn't it? Or did I already get to that one? Maybe I did. There it was. I just passed it. Oh, yeah. That was James. In bed, feeling rotten. James, feel better, my friend. Okay, now I'm back this far in the chat, so let's answer some things from back here. I didn't know Tesla makes tubes, too. Not that Tesla. There was a Tesla long ago in the Czech Republic. Former Czechoslovakia. And, right? Is that where they're located? Or is it Yugoslavia? No, Czechoslovakia, right? Anyways, I should know my tube factories better over there. Tesla tubes, great tubes from the, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s. And I believe now is JJ. JJ took over the, you know, the plant. It's different people, different, I don't know. I would love to know, actually, like what happened in that transition. I would like to know the history between Tesla and JJ. How many of the original people maybe are still there, if any? I'd like to know that story. You know who would know is the Eurotubes guy. He would know that. I should look into that, but it would be interesting. Anybody out there know any of that? Like, because, you know, a lot of people don't hold JJ tubes in the high regard that folks hold Tesla tubes in. But as I understand, I think it's the same damn factory. I don't know. Is it or not? Did they move the stuff? They bought the machinery and used different people. I don't know, you know, how these things go. The drama. You make a great like documentary that only us would watch. Only us tube geeks would watch about tube factories. Steven says, looking to buy a 75. Oh, that was the switch. Right, polarity switch. Sorry. Way back here. Okay, what else we got here? Was that a question, Patrick, about my bending technique, my vibrato technique? I'm not sure. You were also, if it was you, asking about whammy bars. So, vibrato technique with the whammy bar, it's just, I generally don't do the pull up and pull down thing. I do more. push down, I guess, with the bar. And also, you know, where I'm kind of dropping a whole step or maybe pulling up a whole step, but generally not, then it starts sounding a little bit like guitar geeky. I don't know. Generally a half step, or that's the extent of it, what I do with the bar, really, as far as vibrato and stuff goes. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see some company come out with a digital modeling guitar pickups that are battery powered. That sounds complicated. I don't know what you'd have a digital out on the guitar, I guess, and then you could have. I mean, I think that's kind of a Variax, really. Not battery powered, but that's really a Variax is what you're talking about, or the Roland guitar, right? Yeah, it's already been done. Really, modeling guitar, the Roland the Strat that's Roland Ready or whatever they call it. You know, can't remember. I've done demos for them where there's like baritone sounds and there's, you know, there's humbuckers, Strats, Tellys, like all kinds of things in the guitar, but also 12 strings and baritone guitar, nylon string. I did a video for one back 2013, I think, for the maybe 2012 for the Fender version. And then there's the Variax. These are cool tools to have. It's nice to have one around, you know, if you just want to lay a 12 string part down, you know, it's going to be back in the mix or something on a session, or, you know, you need to cut a quick one lick on nylon string or something. God, I don't have time to set up a mic or whatever, you know, let's just do this. And it can sound great. Yeah, your mileage may vary, but check out, you know, my video on that Roland from years ago. I think it sounded really good. What else have we got here? Did you master Guitar Nerd or send it out? How much processing was on it? That's a great question, John. Okay, my records were both mastered. I'm gonna get the name. I'm forgetting the name of the business. It's a fellow named Ross Nyberg up in Seattle. Nyberg, I think he just calls it Nyberg Mastering. Nyberg, Nyberg. You can look him up, and he's a mastering engineer. He's also a really good guitar player. So he gets guitar. He's a jazz guitar player mainly, I think. But he contacted me years ago and said, if you've ever got anything you need mastered, I would be happy to do something for you, you know? And I sent him a track, and it sounded great when I got it back. It really did. And he's a nice guy. And I don't know, I just really liked him. I bonded with him. And so I sent him Guitar Nerd, and he did a terrific job on it. And he was real careful to not push to. This was at a time when Guitar Nerd came out 2011. People were still mastering really loud and crushing stuff, you know. And he said, no, I'm not really into that. And I was like, that's okay. You know, you can like take it so far, and then I don't want to squash the life out of it. And he's got some really nice, you know, like a real mastering studio with some nice analog gear that he runs everything through, you know, gets it nice and warms it up and all that good stuff. And I tried to do some of my own mastering, and, you know, I tried, you know, my fake mastering, I call it, like where I put stuff on the bus and I try to get it sound as good as I could, you know, nice, loud, hot, competitive, not too loud, but loud. And I tried to match, like I tried to just get the best sound I could. And then I sent this track to Ross, and he did it, and he sent it back to me, and his sounded better. It just sounded better. And I couldn't get it that good. So I thought, okay, definitely. Because I did everything else on my record. Basically, Bog Clear Mountain mixed 3 songs on Guitar Nerd, but besides that, I mixed the other 7 or whatever, and, you know, did all the engineering and stuff. So I did a lot on my own, and my goal on Guitar Nerd was to use the stuff I had to make the best record that I could. You know, okay, so I can't have live drums all the time. I'm going to program the hell out of these drums as best as I can, even if I don't, you know, I'm going to do the best that I can, which is why I also tried to do the mastering myself. And then when I heard what he did, and he did such a wonderful job, and he wanted to do the whole project for me, so I just said, okay, this I'm going to let go. And I would recommend that to anybody, because also they do other things, you know, putting the codes on the tracks and all those things, so that and sequencing and stuff like that, so that they deliver the, you know, if you're getting CDs made or anything like that, or even delivering it for digital distribution, I think they do some special stuff that is like things you kind of need to do to get your tracks ready for commercial release, beyond just the way they sound, you know, clipping the songs at the end and the beginning just right, and the fades, and when somebody's listening to the whole record, the way that the tracks play together and all that, they get all that together. So, you naming the tracks correctly, you know, so that when they're delivered, they have the right, I mean, simple things you would think, but it's actually kind of not. It's easy to screw some of this stuff up, I think. Best to just leave it to somebody, I think, you know. Also nice to get it out of your hands and you know, like it's the final thing right before it goes for, you know, people are going to hear it. So maybe better to, if you've got somebody you really trust, to give it to them, just sonics wise at this point I'm talking about, beyond the other stuff, and just give somebody else the, you know, that hasn't been so immersed in the project and doing everything. Because if you're like me, you do, you know, you're doing everything and you're so in it that maybe you've lost a little perspective. Happens, you know. So how much processing was on it before I gave it to him? Not, I didn't go crazy. I tried peak around like -3, something like that. And, you know, a little bit of bus compression and that's it. Normally I would put more stuff on the bus. If I, you know, for YouTube and everything, I'm basically doing my own mastering. The tracks you hear me do all the time, you know, have, you know, a limiter and I'm like pushing into it and I've got, you know, more mastering stuff going on. But for mixes for records, no, just a little bit of bus compression, maybe a little EQ on the whole mix, but I'm basically leaving that up to him, you know? So, yeah. And, you know, not all mastering engineers are created equal. That's for sure. I've done things where I've been very not happy with the way things have come back and, you know, unhappy. And I actually, you know, situation kind of, I did try going to another place on Pete Thorn 2. And it was a week of hell actually, where I was like going, this is not sounding good and I'm not down. And I ended up calling Ross in a panic going, can you help me? And he was really cool and he totally helped me out, and I ended up having him do it again. Another friend of mine, Why Not Jansveld, is a great dude, bass player, and he's been doing some mastering, like really professional stuff. I think he did the new Wallflowers record. And he did a new track for me recently that sounds great. So he's also and he's a friend of mine, and he's a great musician and stuff, and he's here in LA. So anyways, that's that. More Guitars is up there in the top super duper chat, and he says, much gratitude for your time and knowledge. Thank you, my friend, and coffee on me. Please support these mediums if you can. Down to business. Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti, or Houses of the Holy. Oh man, those are about equal. That's kind of asking me like Beatles Revolver or Rubber Soul. I go back and forth, you know, which are a couple of my, those are sort of, I love those transition era Beatles records where they were going from being the kind of cute, you know, the Fab Four into getting towards Sgt. Pepper's, right? And it's like things are getting a little more mature, and it is interesting. So Physical Graffiti or Houses of the Holy, I guess, I don't know if that's a great comparison or not, but they are that period of Zeppelin. I don't know. I like both. Maybe Physical Graffiti. Okay. Let's see. Beavis, what's up? He says on the PT412, you said that it had greenbacks on top and V30s in the bottom. Does the sound change much if the V30s are on top and greenbacks are in the bottom? Well, it's brighter and a little more, you know, and they're louder. So that's the other thing, is that they're more efficient. I shouldn't say louder, but the net result is they are louder. I think a V30 is a 99 dB efficiency, whereas a greenback's 97. So there's 2 dB difference there. And the net result is the vintage 30s do sort of tend to be a little louder. So you put them in the bottom, and that doesn't matter as much. And you've still got this great blended sound, which I really like. I think it's cool. And the option to mic a different speaker in the studio or live for a different sound, or blend 2 mics live, whatever. But with the greenbacks on top, they tend to soften the sound that your ears hear a little bit. You know, they're just a little bit lower efficiency, and that's a nice thing, I think. So, you know, Dave Friedman's been doing that in his cabinets for a long time, and I liked it, you know, and I think it's cool. And we did it in the PT212 too, with even though they're split like this, and you know, that sort of pattern. The greenback is the top one. If you put the V30 in the top, it'll just kind of dominate, I think. And X pattern, I don't really do either. If you can do the X pattern if the speakers are around maybe 1 dB different in efficiency, but with that 2 dB thing, I start to hear you know, I'm sure those of you out there that have tried it know what I'm talking about, where the more efficient speaker just dominates. Actually sounds louder, that size of the cabinet. Ryan says, he's up there in the super chat, and he says, thanks for all you do for the guitar community. Thank you, my friend. I'm going to come back and find you there. There you are. What cables do you recommend for connecting pedals on a pedal board? And Ant-Man is also there in the super chat. Hey, thanks. He's just saying, hey, I appreciate that. Thank you, Ant-Man. What cables do I recommend for connecting on a pedal board? I did my last board with the Providence cables. They're very tiny, the connectors, and I've always liked their cables. They sound good to me. The low capacitance and all that stuff. And the connectors work great because they make both a short straight and they make an angled that's really small. Now, they're not as small as some of those new ones that are super flat. You know, those are kind of cool for pedal boards. So I'm not I'm not a cable snob, really. Like, I'll use a lot of different cables, but the Providence just work great for me, and I have a relationship with them. So they're good people, and I do recommend them for the pedal board, especially those short little straight ends. If you need straights for going into like a switcher, they're really nice. So very compact. Hope that's helpful. Providence, check them out. I also started using these Cordial cables recently, so I've been doing more with them. They seem to make everything. They're from, I believe they're in Germany. I went and looked at the website after. They sent me a couple cables after something that I did with Jennifer Batten, and she's involved with them. And I really like them. Then I went and looked at their website, and they make absolutely everything. I mean, snakes and like all kinds of cables, you know, everything, every kind of cable into the sun that you could possibly imagine. So, and they seem like really good. Okay, thoughts and opinions on Dunable guitars, says Kyle up there in the super chat. I am sorry, I'm totally not familiar with those. I'm sorry, Kyle. I wish I could help. I'm still going to take your super chat and buy myself a coffee, though. I'll tell you what, I'll go to the coffee shop and buy a coffee and research those guitars on the internet while I'm there, and I will think of you. It's true. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone here know how to get rid of the squeaky noise my whammy bar? Sounds like a personal problem. No, sorry. Squeaky noise my whammy bar makes when I use it. I have the new Relic Frankie, and it's great, but the squeaky whammy bar is really getting on my nerves. So you're talking about the bar this way? That's my guess. Squeak, squeak, squeak. A little 3-in-1 oil, like Ed would have done, right? Honestly, a little 3-in-1 oil, like anywhere that things, you know, it's not a bad thing on, like, I use stuff like that on you know, sometimes on knife edges, or if I'm having an issue, or anywhere that anything squeaks, you can use a little bit of, you know, that kind of, get something from the hardware store and stick it on there and see what happens. 3-in-1 oil. That'll alleviate it. I mean, right? Good old Eddie trick. Put a brass nut on it and drop some in the nut while you're at it. Right? Just like, it might be time. Just like on this guitar. Come on now. Come on now. All right. Now we're not going to talk about that at all. Just not going to talk about it. What else you guys want to talk about? Come on, let's get some more questions going here. How do I even get back to? There we go. Yeah. Let's see. Look at the super chats. I got them all, I think. If I missed any, I'm sorry. Graphite, Travis is saying. Graphite spray. Yeah, get some graphite or some 3-in-1, that kind of thing. Have you played the MXR reverb pedal? You're talking about the M300? I have it on my board forever. It's still on there right now, actually. I've taken it on and off to use other things, but it's awesome. It's great. George Trips, baby. He designs good stuff. What do you cats think of the CKK Scream Honey? Pete did a great tune for that. Thank you. Appreciate that. I do. Cordial Cables super affordable in the EU. Is that right? Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen them over here, but they seem really good. Sylvia Massey is a Cordial girl. Is that right? She's a legendary recording engineer and mixer. Is my camera in focus? Looks pretty good, right? Not bad. Amund is up there in the super chat, and he says, I was just watching your Scream Honey video and just sent Silvertech an email to buy one. Seems killer for boosting a Marshall. Yeah, send him an email and he will get back to you. He's building more. So I know that the Reverb store is sold out. He's got a few left or something, he said, and that's it. But he's building more, and they're going to be ready for June. And so anybody that sends him an email can get on the list or whatever if you're interested in one. Yeah. Anyone out there use George L's or Megami? George L's was hot there for a minute in the 90s or maybe early 2000s, right? I remember that. And then I don't hear about them as much anymore. I'm not really into the solderless thing, so they always fail, I think. And most guys that build pedal boards will tell you that. But they do sound good. Those old George L's, they sounded good when they work. And then they, 2 weeks later, they're getting, and then you got to cut the end and put it back on, and then it works again for another 2 weeks. Pretty soon your 20-foot cable becomes a 12-foot cable. Sommer cable, says Robert. I have Sommer going actually to my, you hear it all the time in my studio. It's going to my cabinet in the other room. So I bought their speaker cable. It seems great. It's 80 feet long. What else we got here? What are some good boost pedals specifically for Marshalls? Well, it depends what you want, but Tube Screamers, Super Overdrive, Klon, the Scream Honey, good old microamp if you just want a clean boost. A Sir Coco boost is a pretty wonderful thing, the mid-range boost, and of course a Rangemaster into the normal channel that's the Judas Priest tone, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah. Did you take a Neural DSP Quad Cortex or Kemper model of the Fortis Mick Mars amp? That was the most popular thing that people were asking me. You know what? I didn't. All you Kemper guys. No, I didn't do that. It would be weird. The amp was sold to somebody, and the fact that I even got to check it out, it sold for a princely sum. And the fact that I even got to check it out when it was already someone else's. It wasn't Richard's or mine or anybody's, but when it was here for a retube, it certainly wasn't here for a retube and to get Kemper profiled, So we've got to have some integrity in this business, Yes, I could have done it and nobody would ever know, but I didn't. I have one here, right? I've got I did record it. So I've got the recordings of the amp, and then I've got my Germino here. That's basically Jose mod. And there's another Jose here in the building actually. And so I've got other amps that I can go to that recording and, and listen to the amp and then check I have a real weird thing about the whole yes, I have a Kemper and yes, I have a Quad Cortex, and I will make the profiles or the captures of amps, but I don't generally share them, and I've never made any commercially available. And I kind of just I'm in the amp business. I've got a Sir signature amp, 2 of them actually, and I'm still about tube amps, and I see the amount of work that goes into these things, and everybody just wants to take it and then put it in their little box and use it. And I don't know. I'm weird. I've got a love-hate, 60% hate. 40%, yeah, this is cool. I can't help it. I don't know. What else can I say? Are you concerned with tinnitus? My ears ring 24/7. That's Billy. You know what? I don't really play that loud, especially not for the last little while. The gigs that I've done and stuff, and I've been concerned with it over the years. 10 years ago, I had more ringing, I think, in this year. When I was always on tour with Chris Cornell, we were a pretty loud band on stage. As anybody that came to a gig and stood close to the stage can probably attest. But there was a lot of loud guitar amps up there and a bass rig that was really loud. And we were also on in-ears most of the time. So I had my in-ears loud so that I could get up above the din of the band. And I developed a bit in this year back then. And it chilled out actually over the years. I don't hear any at all ringing anymore, really. I mean, maybe if I was like, yeah, I really don't. It was like constant for a number of years. And now it's like, it seems fine now, honestly. And last time I had my ears tested was a long time ago. But I mean, when I did, they said, you're pretty normal for your age. They weren't like, oh, you got some loss in the 4K. They were like, you got a little dip here and there, but that's normal for how old it was. Whenever it was probably 10 years ago. I haven't done it. Most of the gigs I do are a little bit lower in volume on stage now, or I wear in-ears and I keep the volume down, you know, I suffer through it and I don't enjoy it as much or not being able to, because it does feel good to play loud. But anyways, I got another super chat that I'm missing here. Shane, two-parter, recommendations on HSS type guitar under 1K for Les Paul player. For a Les Paul player. Interesting. And can you comment on the uncovered cream black pickups that were in that reddish brown Sir you used in the CKK video? What was it? Oh, that was a brown. It's root beer. And it's a Sir Modern. And they're the Doug Aldrich pickups, which are real hot. So I used all hot pickups in that for that song. I had both those guitars in D because I used them in the Mick Mars video. I needed a Floyd guitar for the Mick Mars amp for the wing, 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 wing at the beginning of the, wing, wing, wing song, Dr. Feelgood. And then I used the Nags because the reason that I used the guitars, the hot pickups for the Mick Mars amp video was because I think he used to play old JBs. That's what I heard in any research that he used, Duncan JBs a lot. So the Rebel Yell is a similar spec pickup to a JB. It's an Alnico 5 14 something K pickup. So I thought, well, that's close. And it kind of reminds me of a JB. It's got a hot mid thing and kicks the amp through the mids and stuff. And then the Aldrich pickups just happen to be, they're quite hot too. They sound a little smoother to me they don't have as much of that pointed thing, but they are hot. They're pretty loud pickup. There's just a little more even frequency spectrum wise. So that's the Aldrich ones. Very different than what I normally use, right? I'm normally in this PAF guy. But to tell you the truth, lately, I mean, I do appreciate the hot pickups. I just know that one thing that they do. I'm not going to play clean with them unless it's a split coil thing, and then they can work quite well, like the number 2 position on a Sir where it splits the coils and they're hot. It's like then it can be pretty cool, but. Generally speaking, I'm a PAF-y kind of guy. I just feel like they'd paint you into a corner a little bit less. But the hot pickup, I mean, generally I'll go to the Nags for my hot pickup tones because I know it's got those hot 14K. And if I want it rude and I want it to kick the amp, I'll go to those. And it works great for those sounds. Yeah. Let's see. Do you know where I can get a 412 Blackback G20 speaker IR? Like I think you mean G12, like my cab. Blackbacks. Own Hammer. He's got some nice vintage speakers, and he did Blackbacks years ago. Kind of some of the first times I ever got to kind of mess around with IRs were those Own Hammer Blackback ones. I remember really liking him. And so anyway, check out some of what he's got. Those might be the only vintage Blackback IRs I can think of, to be honest, the Own Hammers. So look there for his 412s with those speakers. They're really not that different than greenbacks or, if you can find, the Yorks or even the modern Celestion greenback IRs they make. Mind you, there will be something coming. That's all I'll say. Okay, what else we got here? Did I miss any super duper chats? I don't think so. I didn't. Okay, cool. Oh, what else we got here? Let's see. Dion says, we miss Mateus Asado. Yeah, I don't know what he's up to, I don't know what he's up to. Taking a little time off. Everybody's got to take a little time off every now and then, right? Yeah. And John says, modelers sound like balls. There, I said it. Experience with Hughes and Kettner Grandmeister 36 or 40. I think I might have played one of those maybe at GitCon in Germany. They had a bunch of those Hughes and Kettner amps. Fucking God damn it. Gotta be kidding me. I was like, no, I spilled. No, that's part of my shirt. It's a Yvette Young Covet shirt. I hate this cup so much. You know what happened? Britt took my years ago. I had this. I was thinking about it this morning. It pissed me off. I had a Rocket Cargo, which is the cargo delivery service from LA here when you're cargoing your gear for gigs. They sent me, because I was a good customer, so I was always shipping gear all over the place. They sent me a travel mug once, and she took it and used it one day, and I never got it back. She forgot it somewhere. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot it. What? You forgot my travel mug? That's my travel mug. What are you talking about? Oh, sorry. I got another one. I'll give it to you, which took like 2 months, and then she gave me this one, this Guild one, and it sucks. Sorry, the fellow at the beginning said, let's have a nice, relaxed chat. I'm just thinking about it this morning when I was filling this thing up. I'm like, I know it's going to dribble all over me while I'm trying to do my show. There's going to be 513 people online. They're all going to watch me spill all over my shirt. That's why you come here, isn't it? You come here for the drama and the making fun of me. I know it. Just kidding. Okay, Jack Murphy. Thanks for putting up with me, by the way. I'm so weird. Jack says, hey, Pete from Ireland. I've been looking at the Ibanez AR32 325 QA. Thoughts on its Okume body and ash top? That's interesting. The idea of an ash top on an Okume body right away says to me that they're just going for a look, you know, like, right? You know, they want to do, I'm sure it's see-through, right? Okume though is cool. It's basically like a it's kind of like a light mahogany. It's real resonant. I like guitars that I've tried built out of, you know, Sir builds guitars sometimes. Some of the moderns and Okume, maybe the unfinished ones, you know, or with the sealer finish on them. And I think it's a cool wood. I mean, they use them on the, I think they use them on the Auras, right? It's essentially like a some sort of I believe African variant of mahogany, right? It's resonant. It's light. It's cool, you know. It's not heavy and dense and darker, more mid-range centric. It's got more going on when it comes to resonance and stuff like that. Yeah, sounds cool to me. You know, it seems plentiful. It seems like it's an easy wood to get, and it's you know, consistent and sounds good, and it's light, and it's not, you know, probably like good Honduran mahogany was in the 50s and 60s. I'm sure there was tons of it, and they used it all. Abraham says, looking to buy my first tube amp. What do you recommend for medium to large venues? I play mostly clean, occasionally some light overdrive. Do you use probably overdrive pedals then? I mean, I would say medium to large venues. You want an amp. It sounds to me like you're a candidate for an amp with some headroom. And, you know, something along the lines of maybe if it was a Sir, I would say the Bella with a nice overdrive pedal with its 50 clean watts and lots of headroom. That would work great for you. If it's your first tube amp, you maybe don't want to spend quite as much. I would probably look at, I don't know. What do you guys think? Does Fender have a Pro Reverb now? It's probably 40 watts. You know, you can go to the Twin. It's probably a little too loud and heavy. Don't they? I think Fender brought out a Pro Reverb. Mostly clean, occasionally some light overdrive. That's probably what I would. Isn't that a? You know, I would look for. I'm just trying to think of, you know, Pro Reverb. Let's see. Yeah, the 68 custom Pro Reverb 11240 watt. They're about $1,300 a Sweetwater. So that'll be a 6L6 affair. So I would say either for a boutique amp, I would look at the Bella from Sir. For a more something you can order from Sweetwater that's about you know, $1,300. That 68 Pro, I would say that amp, those amps. I have the little Princeton version, you know, and they take pedals really well. They're real versatile with pedals and stuff, and that I'd probably just go that way if you like clean to light overdrives. Sounds good to me. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. You can get good reverb from a travel mug. Yeah, if I throw it across the room, bash it against the wall because it sucks. I hate my travel mug. Let me get another one. Yeah, I think it's a 68 Silverface Pro. That's the one. Yeah. 40 watts is really nice for most, you know. John's saying get a PT100. I mean, he's saying his first tube amp, and he says he doesn't play a lot of. I try and be diplomatic around here as far as like, you know, I do have my own line of amps. I know that. But, you know, like, I don't know if somebody's like, I play clean mainly, and I occasionally use light overdrive. I'm like, oh, dude, you need the PT100. No. The PT100 was based around the overdrive channel, really, and then it happens to have John's great clean channel in it, which is awesome. But it's got a terrific clean channel. But, you know, it's really an amp for if you're a distortion aficionado of, you know, the Marshall variety, the Marshall Persuasion. It's fantastic. And if you need the 3 channels and all that stuff, but for a pedal guy that is mainly playing light overdrive, I try and be, you know, I'm not gonna, you know what I'm saying. I'm not here to just toot my own horn and sell my own stuff. You know, I know when it's right for, I will gladly recommend it if I'm like, dude, there is no better amp for you. And generally the speaking, that's when the old threads pop up on the gear page all the time with people saying, does anybody out there, what's the best Marshall and Fender? And it's like, man, for 10 years going, there's no better Marshall and Fender, you know, in one box. There really isn't. So I will say that when somebody asks that question. But anyways, Adam's saying Fender HRD is awesome, cheap pedal platform. Good amp, a little underpowered for what this fella's saying. He's saying he plays medium to large venues. I mean, it could work through a mic with the monitors and all that. PT15 can work through, you know, but I'm just thinking if he says he plays mainly clean, sometimes with light overdrive, I'm thinking maybe it's like Mayer using, you know, 100-watt clean amps, right? 2 rocks and, you know, loud dumbles and stuff. He's a pedal guy. All pedals, you know, I think mainly for drive, not just mainly, I think all. And so that headroom of, you know, the higher power, higher headroom with pedals, you know, doesn't mean necessarily you turn the amp up super loud. You can run it on 3 or whatever, but now you've got that headroom and you can play dynamically and all that, you know. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. What else we got here? I want to play my amp loud so badly, says Preston. Do it. Just do it. Just do it and deal with the, you know, beg for, you know, whatever later. You know what I mean? What's that saying? Better to beg. Oh, God, I forget the damn saying. You know what I'm trying to say. Somebody say it in the chat. God, I want to get it, but I'm going to lose you here. I'm going to see the viewers fall off in a minute. Is it better to ask for permission than beg for forgiveness? Better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. That's what I'm saying. Turn your amp up and then beg for forgiveness from the neighbors. Just do it. Do what you got to do, man. Do what you got to. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Okay. I like that. I'm getting some great answers here. Arthur, it's better to have loved and lost than to have never have been in a motel. Better to do it on the first date. Wait, this is very telling. I'm learning a little bit about all of you right now. Yeah, better to ask for forgiveness than beg for permission. Better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. I like that one better. That means you really turned it up loud. They called the cops and stuff. Any thoughts on EVH amps and cabs? Well, I had an original one back in the day in 2007 or 8. I bought one, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I still have the cabinet, actually, now that I think about it. It's in my storage space. It's a great cabinet. It came with those heritage greenbacks, you know, the EVH ones. And so I still have an EVH cabinet. That's funny. I haven't used it in years, but anyway, it's a nice cabinet. Speaking of speakers, and their efficiency, they're 96 dB efficiency, 1 dB lower than the standard greenback. You tell me if you try a cabinet with 99 dB efficiency and then that one with 96, that it isn't a major reduction in volume. They're really helpful for, like, if you got an old Plexi or something, or a metal panel Marshall, and you want to chill the volume a little bit. 3 dB down is quite a bit. I mean, that's like one click on an attenuator on a lot of them, right? A hot plate, you know, it's 4 dB, but, you know, whatever, who's counting? It's, you know, they're helpful. So I remember using that cabinet with my SL68 and thinking, this is great because I can get the amp up a little louder. And, you know, it's got SL68's got a nice post-phase inverter master volume on it anyway, but I could run it a little hotter than I normally would and drive the phase inverter a little harder in the power section. Michael is up there in the super chat. He says that Steve Jones sound you got made me go back and watch a Johnny Rotten documentary. Fantastic. Put this towards a new coffee mug. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Andrew says, let's all ship Pete coffee mugs. Yeah, the coffee mugs. It's not like I mean, I just got to go buy one or order. Maybe I should go online and look for one. Order the most badass one I can find. Isn't that record great, though? The Sex Pistols, man. Never mind the bollocks. It's such a... I mean, I loved the guitar sounds from Listen 1. If you just tip it just right, and it works. But if you're all lazy, spillage. That's what she said. I've rated skips and dumpsters for mahogany for 30 years. Back to wood talk here. I have a garage full of stuff. Are you serious? Really? How interesting. Wow. Sell it to some people and make some guitars out of it. Just like, you know, Brian May with his mantle that he made his classic guitar out of, right? Yeah. That's pretty interesting, though, that you find and collect old wood. Let's see. Ever played the Friedman Small Box? Yeah, it's actually kind of my favorite Friedman. And I think it's one of Dave's favorites, too, because it's so simple. But he loves 50-watt Marshalls. And, you know, it's pretty much straight up 50-watt plexi with an added master volume on the channel 1. And then the other sound is the BE channel. It's a great amp. It's so simple. And if I had one, I think that would be the one I would get, actually. And I have almost got one at times, you know, because I think it's a really nice amp. It's simple, compact, everything you need, really. Come on. You know? Yeah, you can't give a build up like that and not deliver. Dish on the Frankenstein and strum it a bit. It's not really ready for play, but all right. So I'm doing the big pickup video coming up, the EVH pickup video, right? So this is a custom guitar that was made by a fella, and it's I don't know. It's not ready yet to play. I've got to get the nut worked on. I'm actually taking it to get it. There is a nut on it, but it's not. The way Ed did the nut on his guitars was the slots were really high, so the strings wouldn't pop out. And he had a string tree. I don't know if he always had a string tree on that neck. If I can get rid of the tree, I would, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. I might have to have one, so I might put a graphite one on it or something, even though it's kind of blasphemy. But anyways. It is a cool damn guitar, man. It's like I put a Wilkinson. I got a Wilkinson bridge on it, and there's a bridge that Trev sent me that's his version of an old Strat. You know, it's got a really cool block on it. That's whatever the alloy is. That it's supposed to be like an old 58, like really accurate. You know, the old Fender bridges. It was painted by a fellow on the East Coast, just a one-off job. You know. They can't do the stripe pattern and sell these things or whatever. So it was built by a luthier for this video, for the pickup video. That's how dedicated I am. It's heavy as hell. It's a hard ash. What else? Single volume. I mean, there's nothing to it. It's the right woods. It's supposedly the right neck shape. The place that built this, it came from a place called Lock Guitars, L-O-C-K-E in Vegas. I didn't know them from Adam, you know, but the guy was I can't even remember how I got the guy's information, but he said, I can build you something like that, you know, neck and the body. So he did the neck and the body. Nice guy on the East Coast finished it, and we're going to use it for it's just a one-off for this pickup video, really. It was a fun guitar, right? Obviously. I mean, it's killer. It's pretty much dead nuts. Pickup is direct mounted right now to the wood, and it is perfect, actually, where it's mounted. Now, this is the kind of crazy that I am. Here's more parts. All the pickups are back here. There's like about 15 pickups sitting here on the table that we've got so far. I've got as close to the right damn strings as I can find, which are, you know, pure nickel Fender. Here's 2 more pick guards. And yes, the pick guard was this crazy. These are cut exactly like the original. But the difference with these is you'll notice there's screw holes for the pickup, because there's no way we can direct mount every single pickup. It's impossible. The way that the legs are bent on the pickup to get it to mount to the wood and be at the exact right angle, it's very difficult. So for the pickup test, what I'm going to do is the very first pickup will be the one that's in the guitar right now, which is a rewind sort of version of an Alnico 2 9K pickup. We'll listen to it in this guitar, and then we'll pull it out and put it in one of these guards and mount it via the screws. And we'll listen to the difference between direct mount and in the pick guard and hear if we hear any difference. So that, I think that's going to be an interesting thing, right? That's a useful thing to listen to. And then I've got the, okay, so why 2 guards? Because then then we'll start swapping pickups out of the guitar. And while I'm recording and playing riffs through one of the pickups, a tech, because we're hiring a tech for the day, can be switching the pickup in the other guard. And then once I've done with the guitar, I hand the guitar, he quickly swap. We'll put 2 screws in the pick guard or whatever. That's it, 2 or 3, just to hold it in long enough. Then he'll hand the guitar off to me with the different pickup. I'll go in and start tracking. He'll take the other guard, swap the pickup out in the guard, and be ready to go. So we'll get this rotation going, because we're going to have like 20 pickups. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a long day. I don't even know if we'll get it done in one day. But isn't this interesting though? Like, if you can see, I know it's kind of hard to see because it's black, but the how screwy it is down here with this thing cut out, and these guys copied the guard exact, you know, and here with the I mean, I think Ed must have done it like with a bandsaw or something, you know, originally. It's so interesting. This, I don't know. I put this thing together myself because it showed up with the neck off and everything, and I put it together. Friedman helped me wire it up because he's better with a soldering iron than I am. And it almost works, but it's just there's an issue with the nut. So I'm going to take it to somebody on Monday, get a new nut done actually with the real high slots, and try and have them just set it up so that it tunes as good as possible, stays in tune as good as possible, and you know the strings have the least amount of downward pressure needed to get a good tone. So it just needs a little bit of love and tweaks, but it's really close to being badass. Fun guitar, right? Come on, just fun. I'm a kid. I love this stuff. I mean, I'm a kid when I mess with this stuff. That's what I mean. I'm not actually a kid. I'm an old guy. Anyway, I felt like I was 14 bolting that thing together. I still love this shit, you know. It's so much fun. Is there a Gibson logo on it? Yeah, Ed's had a Gibson logo on it. It was super faded, but if you look at, you know, Google, you know, EVH Frankenstrat 1978, look for images, and you'll see the gold Gibson logo in it's real fine, you know. Probably got all worn off or something, but yeah. Oh, maybe you know that. Maybe you're just asking if it has a Gibson logo on it, but yes, it does. Middle-aged kid. I might be beyond middle age right now, man. I don't even know what is middle age. What do they consider the top end of middle age? I hope I'm middle aged. That's all I can say. Yeah. Oh, I missed a super chat for Simon. Okay, Simon, I'll go back and find it. Eddie said he used a soldering iron to make the original picker. Really? That's interesting. I think I heard that somewhere too. Used a soldering iron to cut the scratch plate. That's insane. Prince Westerberg and Mr. Rogers. Nerd Halen, what's up? He says the nerd will be so strong with this next deep dive. It's going to be super nerdy. And all right. Christopher says that is gorgeous. I know it's a nice. Yeah, is that an E flat? Says Mike. Yeah, John says buzzy. Yeah, it's not quite. Well, actually, it's not that buzzy right now, but it's just there's a few issues with the nut. We'll get it sorted out. It's not quite playable yet. Put it that way. But wood, you have wood, says all you guys. Okay, yeah, bunch of nerds. John says, okay, no, that wasn't the super chat I missed. Sorry, looking for super chat. Steve Jones sound. I'm sorry, whoever super chat I missed there, can you just ask me one more time in the bottom, and I will look right now. Because I can't go back that far if I missed one of the super chats. I'm really sorry. James says, I think the right amount of neck relief is 0. You can get close to 0 neck relief, but the frets and the nut have to be so good. That's the key, you know? Otherwise, it's just going to buzz, and you're not going to get great sound. You can have none and buzz, and with a certain amount of distortion, you might not hear it. But really, the strings ringing out and the power of, you'll lose that thing. Oh, there's the Ben Coombs. Yeah, so let's get to this. But yeah, basically, just to finish my thought, you kind of, generally speaking, as far as relief goes, I will check relief at the 12th fret by holding the string at the 1st fret and then the end of the neck at the 22nd or whatever, and then I'll tap it at the 12th, and then I'll go down and check it around the 7th too. And at the 7th fret, if there is just the smallest, like you can barely see the relief right there, I like that. And then like at the 12th fret, a little more, a little bit. But I'm talking small, and I don't know, everybody's just got their thing, the way they like it. Any more than that, it's too much to me, and I hate it. Drives me crazy. I'd rather play a guitar that's hard to play and kind of intentionally high action than I would a guitar where the neck is just a little bit too bowed and the action's kind of a little too high. I hate that, I just, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd rather pick up like a Supro or something that's got like, or an Airline that's got this guitar is kind of a bear, but let's make it work and make some music. That's more comfortable to me than playing a nice guitar, but where the setup isn't quite right. So Simon, let's see here. Super chat. I love your show and video. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Have you ever had problems with carpal tunnel? A little bit. Yeah. I've been starting to have tension in my playing arm. Not cool. The best thing I can say is to go see a sports medicine person, because they have all the stretches, and do you use a hot compress or cool or what, teach you stretches to warm up. I mean, I just felt a nerve thing right now when I did that. I get a little bit, but my buddy John Button, he's got all these cool stretches he does where he puts his hand on a wall and then just kind of leans on it. And then he goes this way with it, with his hand on the wall, and does like these different things to kind of, but I would say get them from a sports medicine person. They're so used to seeing this stuff, mainly sports people, but also musicians, that probably show up, and they'll give you some help. Beyond that, just some ibuprofen and warming up real slow seems to work well for me, just real slow warm up, just playing slowly, picking slowly, 20 minutes. There's no substitute for just the time, rather than sitting down trying to do difficult stuff and straining right away, because I need to warm up. I'm not a guy that can pick up the guitar and play that good. I don't feel like right off the bat. It just isn't there. And I play and I just warm up. I warm up, and then it's like, oh, there it is. And now my hands feel like pretty loose and good, but it takes me a minute. So everybody's different with that. So yeah, sports medicine person, highly recommended. They will help you. Okay, let's see here. Hot water on the forearm, John says, helps before I play. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like maybe heat before playing is a good thing. Wear a guitar a bit higher. That's a good recommendation from Travis. I agree. You got to kind of do what you got to do to not have the angle in your wrist, or and certain necks affect me differently. The width and the thickness of the neck will be an issue. Are you going to try the Duncan Frankenstein pickup? I do have one of those. We got the Frankenstein here, although I consider that kind of more like later tones, hotter Alnico 2 situations. Is kind of like, even though he said that, Ed once said that I think the Van Halen 2 era, the black and yellow guitar, which I'm not convinced, we've talked about this, but I'm not convinced he ever recorded with that guitar. But supposedly, when it had a double cream in there for a while, he said he just put that in there to take the picture that it's not wasn't actually the pickup that he used in that guitar. And I have seen various pickups in that guitar. At one point, it's got a zebra pickup in it, and we don't know. But he said he took a DiMarzio and he switched the magnet out for an Alnico 2, Alnico 8. Some people think it was an 8. We don't know. I don't know that he ever recorded with that guitar anyway. So that's why the main thing that I want to focus on kind of in the video that we're doing with that guitar is kind of the Seymour Duncan 78 style that supposedly ended up in that guitar, which is a 9K Alnico 2 situation. A lot of companies, Pariah, Seymour, obviously. Who else? the bare knuckle Van Halen 2. I'm sure that's probably a variation on that. I actually don't know that for sure, the exact spec, but I would assume it's probably Alnico 2 kind of 9K thingy. A bunch of people make that style pickup, right? Rewind, they sent me one similar. Motor City. So there's a bunch of them that we've got that style. And then there's the distortion thing, you know, I think more Van Halen 1 thing, the, you know, 13 point whatever ceramic magnet hot with the Allen screw pole pieces variant. And we're going to listen to a bunch of those too, from Motor City to Marzio, Mighty Might, Rewind. That might be it. Now the Frankenstein, I've got a Pariah that is similar. I've got the Duncan here. We have other pickups like the Duncan Custom that I want to try, purely because Ed said, Seymour actually said in that ad in the late 70s when he put up an ad for his pickups, he said Duncan Custom and then Van Halen in quotes, right? Did he ever play a Duncan Custom? Was that ever in a guitar? We don't know. We just don't know. Why would he say that if not? It's fascinating, isn't it? If you're a nerd. Okay. Let's see. What else we got here? Chasing Hendrix and Gilmore tones, but really playing Black Keys, Gary Clark Jr. type music. Which amp? Well, that's a great question. JTM 45, Princeton 68 reissue, Dual Showman, SV20. When I think of Gary, he plays a lot of kind of dirty, sort of kind of raunchy, almost like tweed tones to me, doesn't he? I don't know exactly what he uses, but it seems to me a lot of P90s and kind of, you know, and there's fuzzes involved and stuff. Interesting. Chasing Hendrix and Gilmore, but playing Black Keys. And I think your JTM 45 idea is pretty solid. SV20 could maybe work too, but there's something I like when I think about the mix of things that you're talking about. Hendrix used JTM 100, right? Which was basically JTM 45 100 was basically a double power JTM 45, I think. Big, you know, high power tube rectified situation. So I think if you want to go from Hendrix to Gary Clark with the right pedals, I think a JTM 45 could be a great option. I like that. You know, Princeton 68 reissue, I have one of those. It's great, but it's not Marshall, you know. It's like a warm Fender, actually. It's like a Fender without a bright cap. So it's a different sound, you know. Not as yeah, I think for the mix of things that you're talking about, I would say the JTM 45, your first thing that your first inclination there was correct. Slap Hand says, he's there in the super chat, do you use a line mixer in your rig? Not anymore. I used to. It was custom made. It had a Sir Mini Mix built into a rack panel that Dave Friedman built for me. And it was real basic. It was just like a dry level kind of thing. And it would send signal out to my effects. And then I would control the actual amount of effect that came back from the effect output. But it would kind of blend my dry sound with my effects. And it was a simple mixer. But a line mixer. So there's the Wetter box that's real nice from the Gig Rig. That's a great way to go. There's a really nice one from Musicom Lab too that has, it's the only one out there that I've seen that has dry level and then sends for 3 different stereo effects. So look for the Musicom. It's a little mini one that, and then there's switches to turn on all the effects where you can kick on all the sends. So it's kind of made for pedal boards, and it's kind of amazing. This little like 3 stereo unit line mixer thing that also has a dry through. Very cool. So there's some good ones. There ain't a hell of a lot of them out there, but those ones, both the Wetter box and that one, cool. It just depends what you want to do. If it's just one simple unit you want to add, you don't maybe need the 3 stereo effect thing. But anyways, yeah. What are the must-learn Hendrix tunes? I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, what's it? I usually like the kind of the offbeat ones. I mean, the Castles Made of Sand I love, you know. And Wait Till Tomorrow or Wait for Tomorrow? I love that song. God, that rhythm playing is just, I mean, it's not even rhythm playing. It's like chord lead playing. It's so amazing. What else? I don't know. I mean, everybody learns this, you know, Wind Cries Mary and stuff, but I like some of those other ones more, you know, sometimes. He's a hard guy for me to learn, Hendrix, to be honest, because it's so jammy and so kind of blues pentatonic rock based that I kind of get like, note for notey Hendrix is really hard. You kind of have to get more into the spirit. It's the spirit, you know, of the way he played. That's why Stevie was so, the way he interpreted Jimmy's music was so unbelievable through his own lens. And it's not like he, you know, he would copy little key licks here and there, but then adding his own thing. And it was just so great the way he did it. A lot of other people, they don't reach that. Well, almost nobody reaches that level of like, you know, Stevie's like distinctly, because Stevie was a tighter player than Jimmy, you know, it was less chaotic. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it was like more his, you know, Stevie was accurate as hell, like on guitar, and so something about his interpretation of it, I don't know, because it was still so soulful, obviously, you know. So I find that interesting. You know, not many people can do Hendrix, and God, Stevie was so friggin' like, you know, he could do it, and it would be like, yeah, that's kind of. So other people would argue, say, oh, that's not as good or whatever. Hendrix is still the best or whatever. But many people would be like, I kind of like Stevie's version, right? You know, where he took somebody else's song and a little bit like Jimmy did with Bob Dylan's material. But, you know, you could kind of take it and go, to cover and then actually like hit that level of, you know, it's pretty bold, right? Like to be able to not just match, but interpret and then maybe just in some people's, I don't want to say surpass, but some people might prefer. You know, I remember when I was a kid, when I was a kid, I didn't get Hendrix as much or Jimmy Page. I just didn't. It was the 80s and Eddie Van Halen was out and then Yngwie came out. I was, as a young kid, you know, I was more like interested in that technical perfection thing. So, of course, Stevie's style of blues probably would have appealed to me more. Later on, of course, I started to understand what it was it's not all about, you know, the sports of it or the technical perfection. I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but you know what I'm saying? I grew an appreciation of Jimmy Page. Like, wow, like he's not the tightest player in the world, but when he plays a solo, sometimes live, he's hitting 2 out of every 3 notes, but it doesn't matter because that seamless flow of ideas is what's beautiful about it. And it never stops. And it's amazing, you know? Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. That's interesting, I think. Praia Pasadena pickup. I believe I have one of those here. Just installed in my Charvel, and it's perfect Van Halen 1. Very happy. I have. I got a couple different models here from them, and he sent me 2, and I believe one's kind of a 9K Alnico 2, and the other one's more the Frankie style, like the hotter, you know, 14K kind of thing. So I don't know. We'll see what they sound like. It'll be fun. Try all these pickups. Yeah. Third Stone from the Sun. That's great. Yeah, totally. Do you dabble in today's technical music? Not really. I would say dabble is, I'm wearing a covered shirt, you know? It's not, the thing I like about Yvette's music is that I still feel like she's playing with so much heart and soul in it, even though it's really pretty technical. You know, she's really got a musicality that's, I don't know, it's just very, I don't know, I just really like it, I guess is all it is. So it bonds with me, or I bond with it a little bit more. It bonds with me. That doesn't make sense. You know, yeah. But I hear some and I like it. You know, it's amazing to me sometimes, that style of guitar playing. It's not really, I'm a little bit more as I get older. I just can't kind of shake that. I'd rather listen to David Gilmour than a lot of technical music, you know? Not to say that that's all I want to hear, but when I hear a younger guitar player play like that with some, you know, I'd rather hear Prince play a guitar solo or, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like some of this, just, I'm more interested in that now. I just am. I still love technical stuff. But Eddie Van Halen, you know, because he's sort of my guy, you know, he's my number one influence really. And he still had so much balls and soul and fire in his guitar playing and dynamic. And just, I don't know, it's more memorable to me. I'm not really into the, like, when I see somebody sitting, when I got thinking about YouTube and Instagram, when I see people sitting there, especially interpreting the Van Halen stuff or whatever, then it's really blatant. When you play that music, I'd rather watch Phil X do it for sure, because it's like, Phil kind of puts his own spin on it, but he's so crazy and so much fire. And that music requires that, because Eddie was crazy with fire, you know, and that sitting there and executing things with a straight face. And, you know, they do a bend. How can you do that? Like, you gotta put your, like, you know, like, I'm going to offend somebody here right now, I'm sure, out there. But I remember one time when I was doing a session, you'll appreciate this if you just cover your ears, or if you got kids in the room. But Courtney Love at a session once said to me, I did a take of a lead part or something of some song. And she goes, can you just put your cock in it a little bit more? Sorry, once again, but I did warn you. But, and I never forgot that, you know, because it was like such a, you know, something that's like a producer talking to you, or somebody that wants, you know, and it was very descriptive. I was like, I knew exactly what she meant, you know. It's just like, you got to a little bit more, you know, like, and that's what I see missing in a lot of the, you know, come on, like, you got to just, you know what I'm talking about. Sorry, once again, for anybody out there listening through their home TV, but that's what she said to me. It's Courtney Love quote, direct, you know, and that's, you could see her saying that, right? And but it just made a lot of sense to me. So soul in it, says Zach. Exactly, you know. If it doesn't do that, then, you know, yeah, that's Lord Gilmore. Yeah, I mean, David always, like, his he's certainly not the world's most technical or greatest guitar player. It's his soul and his ideas that are so wonderful, you know, and where he places notes and how he's singing through the guitar. He's not the greatest singer either, but I love when he sings, you know. It's like Dylan, you know, or John Lennon wasn't the technically greatest singer. It was like, but I love when they sing. I love their voice. It's not about that. We're human, and I don't know. It's about, you know, communicating. So, anyways, yeah. Did you read the cool EVH article on the DiMarzio website? I did, and actually, I talked to Larry after that. We had a good conversation on the phone. He was interested in the video that I'd made with the amp and stuff, and so we connected. And it was really cool to talk to him, because he's Larry DiMarzio. He's like the, you know, basically the inventor of the replacement pickup, and so it was really exciting to speak with him. And it was fun. But it's basically all there in the article. You know, you can garner. I did ask him some other questions, but I felt like, you know, you get the gist of it from the article. Yeah. I'm not sure what this means. What would you recommend if my series effects loop is out as an alternative? What does that mean, Zach? I want to answer your question. I want to help you, but I don't know exactly what you're asking. Frank Marino is by far the most underrated player of all time. You know, I need to listen to more Frank Marino. I'm not that up on. I know some folks are like hardcore fans, you know, and I should listen more so that I understand. Let's look at this. During Page's recording with Coverdale, the engineer fixed up some of his mistakes. When Page heard the playback, he asked what happened to his track, and the engineer put it back to the way it was. Well, yeah, because it was in the 90s and probably, you know, early 90s too, where there was still a lot of holdover from the 80s. And it's like, that's bold shit. Like, you don't fix Page, you know, right? That's part of the magic, is the, you know, I once an artist that I was working with said to me, you know, and he was a real cool artist. He's like, I can't listen to Led Zeppelin anymore. Like, it's just too, like, this stuff that's out of tune. It was bothered him. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, you know, but I get that in a way. It was a different era where things were, we did let things slide more. And I guess that's part of, like, coming through the 80s and then into the 90s and stuff like that. And then into whatever, you know, we get used to the sound of things that have been corrected and fixed. And then that becomes the new standard. And it's like, you know, it's like, I loved it when, you know, Amy Winehouse and the White Stripes were kind of the turning points, when it's like, this music isn't auto-tuned or beat detected, you know, and they were the two artists where it was really like, oh God, yeah, it's like great. White Stripes is really raw and primitive. Then Amy Winehouse is just great players, recorded really beautifully, and really terrific songwriting and singing, obviously, and stuff going on. And it was like, I love that this is coming back to music. There's some soul back in music, you know, and so it was really nice to hear that, you know. And, you know, of course, like Steely Dan or whatever. I mean, you want to talk about we had perfection in the 70s too. So it was just players playing really great, you know. Yeah, this is Todd Roy says, I love it. I do too. I mean, I love it. You know, a person can't stand perfect music. Amy's voice, though, Preston says, yeah, exactly. Totally right. I love her voice, man. It's so great. That whole first AC/DC album is out of tune and is awesome. I was listening to an album the other day. I think it was Power Age. I was listening to a bunch of AC/DC back when we did the EL34 video, just for some like tone reference to dial in the AC/DC kind of sound and not be too bright or not be too dark or whatever, and try and get somewhere in the ballpark of AC/DC. And like Power Age was like, Angus's guitar sounds like the mic pre is distorting for the whole record. If you listen to it, it's kind of got a fuzz quality to it almost. It's like, it's really aggressive, like, and Malcolm's isn't. It's warm and it kind of, it's I wouldn't want it any other way. I mean, that music is amazing. But when you listen to just Angus's guitar, it's like, oh, good, thank God Malcolm's is there, is kind of warm and clean to balance it out, because it's like abrasive sounding almost, you know. So, and then I listened to the next album, which might have been Let There Be Rock or something. I can't remember the order that they come in, but it was totally different. It was like, then it was like warmer and more like, you know. But yeah, I think Power Age was the record. It's like, whoa. So yeah, it's cool, you know. It's cool. That first Mullard EL34 nailed AC/DC. I would agree, says Freddy's Frets. Yeah, that it's the Mullards in the tube video. We almost got 600 people online. Come on, let's get 593. A few more. Call your friends up and tell them to sign on. But anyways, the Mullard, to me, it's such a stereotype, but it did kind of reign supreme. It's like, oh yeah, it does kind of have it all going on without being too bright or anything. It's everybody always talks about the mid range as being really rich and full mids and sound stage and all these things you hear, like it's almost like hi-fi terms, but you can hear it if you really listen close on a good system. The new tubes that came the closest to the Mullards to me were the Tongue Soul and the JJ, probably. The Tongue Soul had the fullest, like the most extended top end out of the new tubes, I thought, without being abrasively bright or anything like that. And the JJ had a similar, it was almost like a more aggressive upper mid though, but it had an extended top end, pretty big bottom end. It sounded more like a great tube for metal, actually, the JJ to me. Whereas the Mullard was just that classic rock thing, you know. And then the Siemens and the EH and the new Mullards and the, you know, to a lesser degree, maybe the new Svetlana, they all had that more mid-centric EL34 thing with less lows, a little bit less top end, but really cool through the mids, like distinctively sort of quintessentially EL34. Yeah. I bet what do you consider quintessential? That more small bottle tube, or it's just the more small bottle thing or the more Mullard thing? Bigger is the Mullard, you know, small bottle, a little bit more compact, still very cool. Somebody described the Siemens East Germany RFT to me. It sounded like like Boston guitar tone, like, which I get, like, okay, it's a cool guitar sound, that more mid-centric Marshall, you know, thing, you know. Who knows what he probably had Mullards in his amps, but anyways, Michael says 600 viewers, 200 likes. Come on, this is free and great. Thanks, man. Well, just had a episode like I do sometimes these days. Okay. Simon says best Hendrix wah for BC 183 Sunface. Modded V847. Whoa, this is, dude, you're way beyond me with wads, but with wads right now. And true bypass area 51 to 3 nods, Buddha Bud wah. You're way into it, and I don't know. The best sounding wah for Hendrix that I ever tried, and I'm gonna, you know, it was the old BBE that was the Vertex sort of scandal situation. That BBE wah, man, it sounded amazing to me. I was like, this nails the old Vox thing to me, you know. But I'm not a wah. You know more than me. I can tell you need your own show. Next week, Simon will be here hosting. He's going to take over, and he's going to tell you guys about Watts. No, I'm just kidding. But I heard the stems from, I've heard that actually recently too. Stems from More Than a Feeling. Hearing the solid tracks was goosebumps. So cool, right? Yeah, the Boston albums are so unique. For anybody out there, yeah, a lot of you probably know all about it, but it's really interesting reading about how he recorded those records and his sort of vision for the band. And, you know, it's a totally unique music business story that I find quite interesting. You know, just one guy's vision of how he was going to do things. He's obviously a control freak. You know, obviously, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe he's a very nice guy. I don't know, but he's obviously very into controlling every aspect of what he wants. But in a time where you needed to kind of have a big record producer and have a big studio, and you needed to do all that stuff and play the game, he didn't do any of that, did he? Like, recorded most of the record, right, in his basement or whatever in Boston, and finished it all himself and did everything. And like, that's amazing, you know, that he was able to do that and then get to that level of, you know, AOR rock chart, top of the charts kind of success. Totally unique story, the Boston story. So, and totally unique sound, you know, really, and a good sound, a great sound, right? Like a really amazing sound that was so signature to that band. You know, it's Boston when it comes on. And he just, I got a lot of respect for that, you know. So yeah. Braxall, I'm trying to learn how to play Van Halen You're No Good, but I cannot find a video how to play it right. I can give you, pick up the Van Halen guitar and let's angle the camera down. And let's take your, all right, do it like this. You can see, I believe the rhythm, where's my pick? Fucking picks, man. Story of my life. I think this is why guys don't use picks anymore. Okay, so chords could be here, or maybe they're here. Whoops. Right. And then, so you pick and you swell in on the volume on those, you know, and then. Right. So. Right. And then. Right? That's the main rhythm stuff. So go back and watch that, and that should give it to you, I think. The solo, this is great unplug. Right? And then right? And then okay, so you just kind of slide up and then I'm not going to break this all down here, but right? And then it's a little tricky, that one, but you got to go. Okay, so you go up there and you bend up again, release to the 10th fret, bent, hit the 15th fret. That's it. That's pretty much the whole song, except for the little licks in between. There's your video. What we got up here?
V-Bus, what's up, man? Just joined. Love the Mick Mars Marshall video. Sorry if you answered this. How does the Mick Mars Marshall compare to the Friedman BE, the Sir SE and SL68, and the PT100? It's great questions. So good that I'm going to find your super chat and highlight. We hit the 600. God, we got to 610. Fantastic. Great to see you all here. See, I threw my pick. Now I've lost it, and if I need it again, I'm not going to be able to find it. Okay. I would say the unique thing that I'm finding about that Mick Mars Marshall is the mid-range is unique. It's got this 2K thing that Richard brought up in the video. That sounds different than other ones I've tried, although it's really, I can get really close with my Germino right now, but we're going to try a couple more circuit things with it and just experiment this week because I just want to see. It's, you know, Marshalls are different and there can be different things in them over the years. And then Jose did his mods, but many of those other variables stayed the same that were in there. And so, you know, but anyways, okay. So how does it compare to the Friedman BE? I would say the BE is probably a little less rude. Although, you know, this is stuff you can dial, right? You know, but a little less rude. Maybe, and a little like a little more towards the smoother thing, like in a really cool way. It's just a slightly different sound. The Sir SE don't have one, so I don't really, you know, the Sir SE is the crunch mod kind of thing. I've wanted to actually get my hands on something like that for quite some time from John, but the Pt100 isn't that, but it's a different, it's John's kind of tweaked crunch mod, which is more based off the JCM 800 circuit, right? So the cascaded gain stages of a JCM 800 and all that, but tuned, you know, with the lows taken out and different stuff. And, you know, the Pt100 and the BE really are probably out of all the amps you mentioned, the closest in tone, I think. The most tweakable to be probably close to indistinguishable, you know, if you set the tone controls and everything right. They're not exact same circuit or anything like that. They're not, but they're probably, you could get them in the ballpark because the basic topology or whatever, there's fairly similar, I guess. Now it's just the Jose thing is there's a few different things, you know, about it. I don't know, just, and with that particular one, that angry mid-range, that punch you in the gut kind of mid-range. Also keep in mind that, one of the things that's different, especially about the way that Mick would use it and the way Richard would use it, is it's a Marshall plexi circuit with the normal channel and the hot channel, the treble boosted channel, whatever you want to call it on a Marshall, one with the bright cap, right? That channel. It's those two blended. And when you've got a BE or a PT, generally it's just the hotter channel without the normal channel. You know, because a lot of people with, like in the video, in the Mick Mars video, I show the way that most people probably would have used a Jose mod, right? Without the normal channel. That's a more akin to maybe sort of getting closer to the BE or the PT, that sound where it's the channel one of a Marshall boosted with a tube in the front end. But the way Mick would use it is the two channels blended, which you add in that normal channel. It's quite fat and dark, and it gives it this thick thing that not a hell of a lot of amps out there that actually have that, like that quality, a boosted tube in front of, you know, you kind of got to do the thing. So anyways, like you got to do the whole circuit or else. So it's just a little bit different, you know. It's unique and cool. There's a rawness to it and a fatness to it. It doesn't work if it gets too gainy too, like as gainy as you might want for certain lead stuff or what. You kind of need volume, and then it's great. Like if you can turn it up and you can blend, then you can blend in that normal channel, but you can keep the gains low enough that it doesn't get sloppy. It's ballsy as hell. It sounds great, you know. The SL68, the SL68 is pretty much a plexi, so it would be like that amp before, you know, you did all the moddy stuff to it. And, you know, so pretty much more straight up 100-watt plexi. Eddie Van Halen, you know, meets, you know, other folks that use that amp. Similar circuit. Is that helpful? I don't know. Okay, what else we got here? Michael Nielsen compared his new 71 Super Lead to his B100. He had him sounding extremely similar. Yeah, but you know, Stephen, didn't you? I talked with Dave about this, actually. Yes, they're similar, but the differences between
the two are there, and that's the differences. Actually, I thought it was a great video to show the difference between what we're talking about: an amp with another gain stage in front, not with the master cranked as high, and then the plexi, which is looser, and it had the little slop, and that's the difference. That's the difference between the SL68 and then the newer amps that have the more gain and stuff in the front end. You get it's a slightly tight, it's a really, really similar sound that is slightly more tight and refined. And that's what I heard out of the BE. Both great sounds, you know, both extremely viable. Just, you know, depends what you want and what you prefer. The differences are very apparent in that video. I thought it was a great video, more than listening to just the old Marshall he had, which is a really, really good sounding version of that. He recorded it really well. It sounds great. But more than just hearing that, it was a great comparison between the modern and the older amp that, you know. So I thought really nice. Super Jigger What says everyone gives a thumbs up. But yeah, hit the thumbs up. It won't cost you a dime. Did I play the Friedman BE Mini? I did not. I haven't played that amp yet. I'd like to try it. I would. I haven't checked it out. I really like Carl Brown's EVH stories. I don't know those. Which guy is Carl Brown? Wonder how your Thornbucker set would sound with a 27-inch baritone drop C scale. Probably pretty cool because of the clarity of the pickup. I've never tried it on a baritone, but I would think that the lower output and the clarity. I mean, I tend to kind of on baritones, I tend to like single coils and stuff because when I use my Dan Electro, I tend to use sometimes if I'm playing with heavy distortion, I'll use the double humbucker lipstick tube option in the bridge, you know, but many times I'm tapping either the bridge pickup or tapping it and then running the bridge and the big middle single coil or big neck single coil together for cleaner sounds and stuff because of the clarity, you know, with the deep baritone sounds. If you got a thick humbucker, it's almost like a P bass or a jazz bass. They've got single coils in them, you know, and a humbucker like a Gibson Thunderbird or whatever. Never been my favorite sound. Like the basses that can be cool, but the clarity that when you tune low that a not too hot pickup can give is a cool thing, I think. Let's see here. John says, do you think the Marshall circuit PTSLBE wrap the strings with drive tone, whereas other circuits are pushing on top of the strings? Huh? Wrap the strings with drive tone. Well, okay. What happens is it's just the more 12AX7 cascaded kind of sound as opposed to the slightly more out of control, the entire amp and the voltages sagging sound. Because when you crank an old amp, invariably you get it into this where it can't deliver clean power anymore. And once you get the power amp involved, and when you start to see the pilot light dim on the amp, because you just hit it with so much, you know, that it's trying to reproduce what you're pushing into the amplifier, and all the voltages are sagging because you're pushing it beyond its ability, way beyond its ability to deliver anything close to clean power. Whereas on a more cascaded modern amp, you're running the power amp relatively clean. Soldano is a great example. You know, all the tone happens in the front end, just about. You know, which those that have a Synergy or whatever can attest to. You know, running the preamp, it's you get quite close. You know, I mean, yes, the transformer matters and all that stuff, but it's like less than on, you know, that sag that happens on an amp, Tweed or. You know, all the way up to a plexi where the whole thing's sagging, the pilot's dimming and all that, you know, and it's that sound rather than that upfront. It's that more cascaded sound that's kind of a more predictable, even distortion. That's what it is. It's more predictable and even as opposed to the saggy vintage where the power sags a little bit and then it comes back up and you hear the transformer, if you're in the room with the amplifier, go meow. Buzzes and like you hear it like do its thing, and it's like, I don't know, magic. Like Richie Kotzen said, like when he was on the show and he talked about glasses of wine with the going through them, you know. What did he call it? What is it? What's the wine term for? They have fingers or something. He called it. I don't know, like, you know, where it's all that, you know. That was a very artistic description of loud power amplifier distortion. What do I think of 9.5 strings?
I just lost it. I wanted to highlight it. There it is. I love them, actually. That's what I use. I use Primo Slinkies from Ernie Ball. That's my main thing. Except if I'm doing the Eddie Van Halen trip where it's more nines, straight up nines, 9 to 40 if you want to get really. But you almost have to, you got to warm up to play and then not play too hard, warm up, get your hands really in the zone with nines, tuned to E flat, low action, all that stuff. And then remember to lighten up and just, it's a different headspace like that you get in. But the more sort of regular guitar headspace that I get in is my guitar, my signature guitar with 9.5s. It's just like putting on an outfit and the Van Halen thing with nines, and it's like putting on a costume and playing a role, where you have to you got to get into the role. It might take you a minute to get into character. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. You guys talking about tone wood? Am I missing all the tone wood stuff here? What are you guys talking about? I see some stuff about ash and mahogany and alder and maple. Oh, I missed a super chat from Nerd Halen. Sorry about that. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it, Ben. Have you called Seymour? He apparently rewound that PIF himself. I did hit up somebody at Duncan and asked him if he would ever want to talk about this stuff. And I don't think I ever got a reply from, it was the artist guy at Seymour Duncan. I should hit him up again and ask him, or maybe I'm so bad at email, he may have hit me back and I didn't see it. But I should look and see, because I did want to actually talk to Seymour at some point. I've met Seymour before, and I think he would probably tell the story, But yeah, from what I understand, that PAF rewind is something that he used to do back then in the late 70s, where he would rewind a PAF with as much 42 gauge wire as he could kind of stuff onto the coil. I think it's 42 gauge wire, and he would do it in a certain winding pattern that allowed him to do that, and to get as much wire on there as he could fill the coil with. And what would end up happening is it would be about, with that gauge wire, it would end up being about 9K. So that's why the 78 and all that, and the pickup supposedly that he did for Ed, and it was Alnico 2, so 9K Alnico 2. That's where that came from. So and a bunch of these, folks like Pariah and Rewind, and they've got their versions. And I would assume that's, does anybody know the specs of a bare knuckle VH2? Because Steve Stevens brought that up to me yesterday. I'm gonna look right now because he's saying I should include that. I love that Steve said he's like us. He's just a guitar nerd, and he's like, you gotta try that pickup too, because he's a bare knuckle guy. Let's see. We're gonna look right now, and we're gonna see the specs, because they've got a nice website with. Don't see the specs. VH2. Oh no, it says it's Alnico 5. Well, okay. Asymmetrical coils. Maximizing the output of 42 gauge. Sounds like he stuffs the coil. Maximizing the output of 42 gauge wire. Voice to capture the original raw energy and brown sound of the late 70s. The vintage cut Alnico 5. So it's his own kind of take that, and I don't actually see the spec here. Usually he's got specs that, oh, no, wait, there it is. 8.9K. It's almost 9K. Alnico 5. Well, interesting. We're also almost talking about basically a Sur SSV spec here, although the coils on an SSV are pretty balanced, I think. Alnico 5. I thought about just including an SSV too, because it's really going to be similar to, I was talking to John about maybe winding something custom for this, but I just don't know if he has time. He's working on a bunch of stuff, so we'll see. Maybe he will, and we'll see. But maybe it's not like I don't have an SSV here to include. I do, so maybe we could just listen to that too. But some people ask if I was going to include a Thornbucker in that test, and I just don't think the Alnico 4 thing, the specific thing I was going for with the pickup, was just the kind of, the bright top end that I hear. But I'm contradicting myself, because Alnico 4 technically is sort of closer to Alnico 2. So this is all, I should just include a Thornbucker and listen just then we'll hear the differences or whatever. But I don't know. Because once I start thinking about this, it's just like, what are we doing? It's going to be like so many pickups. But anyways, Who else we got here? You guys still talking about tone wood in the chat? I love that. I want to get in on the conversation. So tell me what you're talking about. Are you guys arguing? I want to talk about tone wood. Let me in. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? What else we got here? You guys talking about old Marshalls in the chat. Pete, talking about stainless or standard frets. I like both for different things. I like regular frets on sort of vintage guitars, nickel silver frets on old guitars, and I like stainless steel on my modern Sirs. So it just depends. Frosty's asking about, did Mick Mars buy that amp back from Fortis? No, somebody else bought it. I'm not sure who bought it, actually. It's a good question. What's your favorite body wood for super strats? Generally speaking, I'm an alder guy. I mean, my signature, my signature guitar is mahogany, but I consider it a different thing, kind of what we were going for in that guitar, the mahogany maple top. But on if I'm ordering a Sir Classic or something and it's got a humbucker in the bridge or even not, I like alder. It's really balanced sounding. Ash is cool, like swamp ash, but it's more scooped. And generally I would pick that maybe on a more 50s. If you want 50s maple board and you want a true thing, then go for the swamp ash. If you want a more sort of balance through the mids and just kind of like a good overall thing, alder's great. If you want high gain, specifically with kind of hotter pickups and stuff, basswood is cool, It's a little bit attenuated in the low lows, I find. Like say the Van Halen guitar I have here, the EVH doesn't have like super deep lows, but it does have this warmth to it that works really well for high gain. And that's kind of always the thing, it was like, I think John's favorite for a long time was, John Sir was with maple top on basswood body. And there's a good reason. I mean, it just kind of works for a lot of stuff. And it does sound nice it's a little smoother on high gain sounds. Eddie liked it, right? Maple top, basswood body, or just straight up basswood. He ended up kind of liking that. So it's interesting that's where he ended up coming from Ash. Van Halen 1, Ash, Ash, the Sen, the Destroyer, with a totally different. I mean, he changed a lot over the years. All things come back to Van Halen, but he changed a lot over the years in his preferences. Basswood's just kind of friendly with high gain, generally speaking. Arthur's saying you can send me Seymour's number if you'd like. I'm friends with him. I wouldn't want to just cold call him. Maybe you could ask him, Arthur, if he's interested, that we're doing this big shoot and I have a bunch of his pickups. So I would love to talk to him. And actually, the one thing that would be just really great is, even if I could just talk to him, would be great. If he would agree to actually do a little interview, like a video thing with me over Zoom or over Skype or StreamYard or whatever, I could send him a link and talk about this stuff. I would love to have a little edited so can you tell us about that pickup that you did back in the day and just anything else you'd like to share about your association with, if he would do that, but that he might not be able to or whatever. So maybe you could ask him for me. If you want to send him the video that I did for the amps, the EVH deep dive amp video, and show him like basically they're doing this, but for pickups, where they're going to drop a bunch in. And we've got Duncan 59, Duncan Custom, a Frankenstein, a 78. I've got all those here that they're going to be part of the video, big part of the video. The most actually pickups are from Duncan in the video. So perhaps you could put us together. I would appreciate that, And you can email me. There's a contact form for my email on my website if he'd be at all interested. I definitely wouldn't want to ask him anything, and he could tell me, well, I can't talk about that or whatever, and that would be fine. So. Anyways, Andre says you can get good tones out of basswood, but it's hard to control. You got to wrestle it out of the box. It's muddy and flubby. Ash, mahogany, alder, maple are all good out of the box. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it was pretty common. Muddy and flubby. It does kind of got a soft sound to it, And I guess it's how you balance it with the pickups and stuff. And that's why it wouldn't be my number one choice, maybe for like the scooped ash thing with the 50 Strat. It just has a beautiful top end with the way it scoops the low mids and stuff like that. It's got this clarity to it. But that exact thing could maybe be a little not great with gain. The heavy ash, like I have on a couple guitars, it's got that bright top. It's kind of like maple in some ways. It's just dense and it cuts and it doesn't have there's a mid scoop, I guess, but I don't hear it like that Swamp Ash mid scoop that can sound indistinct with gain. It doesn't sound like that, you know. There's people out there that are gonna think we're crazy talking about all this stuff, but Swamp Ash is scoop, says Freddy's Frets, not heavy ash. Yeah, I agree. That's what I hear. I mean, that's what I hear. The Seymour Duncan IM1 must be included. Isn't that the 78 Nerd Halen? Isn't that the same pickup? What's the Seymour Duncan IM1? Well, let me get my Seymour Duncan straight here because I have a bunch here. Seymour Duncan IM1. Customized shop. One of the most iconic. Oh, look, here's a whole thread on what's different. Oh, I see. Ah, it's an aged. So did they degauss the magnet or something? It's an aged 78, basically. It sounds like, right? Aged 78 is, I think, what an IM1 is. That's interesting. This is the new. I'm just hit on a woodytone.com thing here. Well, okay, cool. I'm gonna take a listen to this. I don't. This is not what I have. I think I just have the 78. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff here. A bunch of information. I'm gonna read this later. This is cool. I haven't seen this little Woody Tone article on it and stuff, but. Sorry, I don't want to read this while you're all online. Thanks for. Yeah, I love doing this because you guys, like I say, every week I learn things too. It's interesting. But I have a hell of a lot of pickups here from a lot of geeky pickup manufacturers. I'll tell you that. And I love them all. You know, like I say, Pariah, Rewind, Seymour, Motor City sent 3. And then I got old pickups too. Old Super Distortion and old Mighty Mite, new Mighty Mite. Yeah, just a ton. So be interesting. Do you have a guitar? You can just pop pickups in. It says, well, it's this one. Do I have a guitar? Do I ever have a guitar? It's made by Gibson. No, it's not. But anyway, this just came on Friday, 2 days ago. Man, it's heavy too. Talk about heavy ash. It's heavy. D. Gauss, says John. I don't know that that's such a thing. Is that really a thing? Do they do that? I don't know. Like, did the magnets actually get degaussed? I don't know. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Maybe one day a SIR module with Synergy. I don't know, maybe. They approached about it. But John does things at his own pace. Yeah. Okay. Look at this. I love this stuff. This is controversy. The Duncan Custom is what EVH used, then changed in the Custom when the Floyd Rose became established. The Fender EVH is a Duncan Custom without the EVH brand name. I mean, basically, I think you're pretty much... I don't know that he used the Duncan Custom, but see, you know, here's the thing. Seymour, as far as I know, Seymour says he rewound the pickup with a 9K Alnico 2, but this is what I want to know. Was he maybe using a Duncan Custom right before that? Did he maybe get that? Because a Duncan Custom is really similar to a Super Distortion, and at least on paper. And we know he used the Mighty Mite in 77. Gotta go round and round about this stuff on this show. But anyway, we know he was using the Mighty Mite and all that. That album sure sounds like, you know, that distortion spec. So was the Duncan Custom maybe in there for a minute? You know, and then he went, I don't like this. It's too whatever. And then like Duncan, well, let me rewind. He had the PAF and rewound. And then by Van Halen 2, it sure doesn't sound like a distortion pickup to me, like a ceramic magnet pickup. It sounds more like a raw, warm Alnico magnet to me. I wouldn't be surprised if that was from Mighty Mite to, it could be Duncan Custom or something. Who knows? Why did he say Van Halen in that ad? That's what I want to ask Seymour. Why the hell did you run an ad in 79 that said, you can find it if you search for Seymour Duncan Guitar Player Magazine ad, 1979. Go look at it. Open it up in another window. and you'll find an ad where he was listing his new pickups for sale, because he was just a rewinder up till that point. Then he started producing pickups, manufacturing them to sell. And it's a few pickups, and you'll see it says Duncan Custom, and in quotes, Van Halen, and then the price, which really pissed Eddie off, as I understand it. And then he quit we quit putting Van Halen on the name. But why did he do that? Was it just out of the blue, or was it something that Eddie actually used, right? That's always my question. That's what I would love to ask Seymour, and he could tell us. Okay. What about koa? Somebody's asking. Koa wood, isn't it similar to mahogany? I don't really know. That's a good question for John. It sort of does seem in some ways like it's similar, like the color of the grain is closer to mahogany than it is maple or something, right? It's a little more porous and a little more, I don't know. Good question. I've only had koa on one guitar. It was a mahogany body with a koa top. It was a Sir that I had for a minute. It was cool. I sold it to somebody. It was a Sir T, one of the few Sirs I've sold, but it was a nice guitar. I just decided that the sort of the brown wood finish at the time wasn't exactly what I wanted for what I was doing. Then I got the candy red telly that I still have to this day, T, that is in here somewhere, that was more black back. It's actually the first guitar I got from Sir that had the black back, scrape binding, and the cherry red metallic top on it. Yeah. This is, see, I've got questions about this RXR in Arizona, but what are you basing that on? That's what I would ask you. I wouldn't be surprised, but what are you basing it on? Because I think he did end up using that Alnico too, kind of rewind eventually. It sure does sound like it, but I would love to know what your kind of thoughts are and why anyways, because obviously he did end up using the custom for a while too, and a JB. So he was trying a bunch of stuff, I think, by the early 70s, right? The custom is basically, custom with an Alnico 2 magnet in it. So it would stand to reason he was maybe using the custom for a minute. And so when I like this, but I don't, kind of try it, warm it up or whatever, and stuck a different magnet in. Okay, what else here? Let's see. Steven says, I own a few Basswood Ibanez guitars and always had a hard time getting a sound out of them. They always sounded mushy and soft. Yeah, I mean, you got to just pick the pickup right. I tend to use them for gain, I'll use them for gainy sounds. They could, high distortion kind of, I love my Wolfgang for, rock and roll, like gainy. I'm not gonna go play Stratty clean stuff on it, but I'll grab it for distortion. It can tend to work really well. That would. What's a good phaser besides the Phase 90? Well, interesting, actually, the Seymour Duncan. So since we're talking about Duncan a lot today, the phaser from Duncan, I can't remember the name, but I did a video for it a while ago. If you search my name and Seymour Duncan phaser on my channel, you'll find the video. It nails the Phase 90 thing, but it'll also do much more. There's a Phase 90 setting on it that's just like an old one. It's great. So check that out. Look no further, actually. Very good. Also, do you prefer phase after or before distortion? I put it before distortion. I like it. Van Halen style. How many guitars do you own? I don't know, actually. Too many. Mighty Mite 1300. Yeah, that's included. I've got a couple Mighty Mites here. We have an old one and a new one, actually. So cease and desist in your inbox, Pete, says John. Yeah, probably. Right? Could be. You never know. Yeah. Who's this up in the super chat before it goes away? It's Eric. Oh, God, I've been going 2.5 hours almost. This is fun today. Lively chat. I was thinking, have I been here for a while? Time flies. Eric, hey, Pete, what is your preference for treble bleed styles? A resistor in series with the bleed cap or a resistor in parallel with the bleed cap? I don't know, Eric. Honestly, you could probably find it online, but it's the Sir circuit that they put in my guitars, which is, I'm not sure if it's in series or parallel or anything else. 220, 221, whatever it takes. What movie is that from? Yeah, I really don't know, but whatever you could find it online. I'm sure if you search for Sir Treble Bleed Circuit, that's the one that I use. Yeah. Yeah. What else we got here? I was going to see if the fellow from Arizona had responded, if he's got a basis for his claims. Not that I was putting him on the spot, but I just wanted to know why he holds the opinion he does about the pickup. In your opinion, do you like the Marshalls built between 1970 and 72 versus the later ones, or do you like the true plexi ones? And double checking You're No Good is tuned half step down. Yeah, tuned half step down. I like 68, 69, 70, 71, 72. Early 73, before those early circuit boards. I mean, you can make later ones sound cool too, but if you had to ask me, it's almost like old Mustangs. By 73, by 74, boy, we really got some problems. But yeah, like the late 60s through 1973, early 73, and all a little different. The filtering gets a little stiffer and a couple parts change and stuff, but you can tweak them to go. I mean, you could basically, there's the lay down transformer thing and all that. So then there's that. But generally speaking, a 68 through 72 Marshall is like, they're highly, like, all the stuff is, just change a couple things and they're basically like the other. So, any of those kind of get you in the zone with a couple parts changes, I love my 1972. I love the way it sounds right now too. That one is just, it sounds great to me. Really, really, really good sounding amp. So I've got I forgot I used it for something this week and it sounded kind of scooped to me. And then I remember it's got 68.7s in it right now. It's got the Sylvania 68.7s in it because we're getting ready to do this Van Halen pickup video and I might use that amp maybe. That's why it sounded, that's interesting. I forgot that I had those tubes in it. I was like, God, it sounds like it's got a real scoop to it right now. Like, it still sounds good, but I learned doing that, as I learned things doing this stuff. I learned that I'm really not as into the Sylvanias for anything other than the Van Halen thing. Even though they're $1 million now to get a pair, it wouldn't be I would rather have a set of, probably EHs in there actually for the most part, for most Marshall sounds, AC/DC meets whatever, yeah. So, yeah, Seymour Duncan Polarin phaser. Thank you, Bent Tom. That was the phaser. That's a great phaser that really does a great phase 90 as well as more versatile. That's exactly what you want. It's got all different, I think it'll do 4, 8, 6 stage, 10 stage phasing, all the different, like a phase 100 does the different stages and all that. But it'll nail the phase 90 thing too. I was really impressed with the phase 90 sound that the Polarin got. Yeah, the custom 5 and custom are all same pickup with different magnets. That's right. And Seymour does that a lot with different pickups. They'll take it and just change one little thing and then they give it a new name. That's how you make a new product. But it does change the sound. Just a minor changes, John says, finally, we aren't geeking out about EVH's later tones. Well, they're cool, but they just got a little more, he's playing and the parts are still awesome and everything, but it's a little more homogenized when you put the harmonizer on there. So the sound's up till balance, that where he was using a lot of the Eventide and stuff, and it got more gainy in the front end once he went to the Peavies as well as the Soldano. It's still a really fun rock and roll tone, right? But I think the raw, organic, special thing about the early amp tones and the drier, raw thing is what, because he was an amazing player, right? And that's number one. And so the thing about the raw, he could take an amp with a really raw tone, and even when you hear him live in 82 or whatever on some of those things you can hear on the internet where they're playing, like, and he sounds like he's got the broken pickup or whatever, where it's real low gain and almost single coily, his playing still so rad. So it's like, when it got gainier and a little more homogenized by the preamp gain thing, you know, that we're talking about, a little less of that where the tone would evolve. We'd hit a chord and you'd hear, you know, that sound evolve. When that kind of went away later to a large degree, like really to where he really didn't do that anymore. Like that wasn't in his sound. So certainly on the later tours, of the last ones that he did, that thing just I don't know, I guess he just didn't like it anymore, or he wanted more consistency of the gain or whatever it was. But in those early days, I think it was just so magical with that, the way the sound would, it was the rawness of the vintage amp and the way he would control it, because he had that ability to, and it was so friggin' cool, you know? So that's what everybody's just, it's the haunting mids. That's what it is. This fella right here says he wants to know about the hole cut in Mick Mars and Richards Marshall. There were fan holes for ventilation, because they were probably keep in mind back in the day, like the matched tubes thing and all that wasn't really a thing, and biasing wasn't really a thing, and Marshalls would blow up. And I guess they thought if they put fans on them, they would run cooler, even though inside the voltages were still just, you know what I mean? This was a thing. Like once people used to say Marshalls are so unreliable and blah, 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 all that stuff. And it was really like, you know, if you were running them with, you know, crazy tubes that were way out of spec for the bias, the way it was set, sure, they'd blow fuses and stuff. As soon as, you know, that was, I guess, the thing with once Jose started matching tubes for Ed, and, you know, the bias and all that, they quit having problems like that, because of course they did, right? So anyways, it's interesting, right? So yeah, there were fan holes on Richards and Mick's amp. A couple top chats. Jeff Kiesel said that basswood is the poor man's swamp ash. Do you find any truth in this statement? I don't think it has the top end of swamp ash, and there's more mids in basswood to me. It's more like mids in basswood, warm mids, low, not a lot of bass. But I think swamp ash has, well, if swamp ash gets really light, it doesn't have bass. If it's like middleweight swamp ash, there's just a bit of a scoop that gives it the sparkle on top. Like I never think of basswood as having sparkle on top, and you know that. I mean, he's a guitar builder, but that's just what I hear with my ears over the years. I always think of basswood as just having the kind of like, a lot of people have said it here. It can be dark or woolly or warm, or, you know, different things. But if it's a good guitar that's built right, and the Wolfgangs qualify, maybe Wolfgangs with the maple top, that's helpful, you know. It can work really well, you know. So, yeah, I don't know if I would say it's like, wouldn't be the way I would say that's like maybe closer than anything to swamp ash than other things I can think of. I don't know. Much of it depends on weight too, whether we're talking about, you know, a piece of wood that weighs like, you know, 5.5 pounds or 7 pounds. Kevin Lee says, any recommendations for a good pair of studio monitors for home recording? Thanks for hanging with us. My favorite studio monitors I just bought a pair this week. I got A7Xs. So I've used Atom A7s for 15 years, and I've had the same pair. And anybody want a pair? I'm gonna sell them. They're great, and I've used them in my studio forever. So, but I just wanted to get the updated version because they've changed a little bit, and sure enough, these are great. They sound actually almost a little too full. I attenuated the low end 3 dB on the little things on the back. Now they sound a little more like my old ones, but just a little fresher. I think these are higher power and stuff, and I just wanted to get, you know, I've wanted to get the A7Xs for years. Updated version of the old A7s. So that's what I use. But for less expensive, I've always said I like some of the newer stuff I've heard from Yamaha, as well as the Atoms make a lower end monitor as well. And the K-Rocks can sound pretty good, I think. Rocket or whatever what's that company called? But anyway, K-Rock monitors. Those I tend to like. And then I've got a set of kind of much higher end Barefoot MM45s as well that are kind of like more like a midfield that I use to kind of sit back this far in the room, turn those on and reference mixes on. Barefoots are really nice. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We got a top chat there I got to get to. Who's that fella? I'm not seeing it. Let me see. There he is. It's Peter. What's up, Peter Evans? Fantastic show. Thank you. In fact, did I just buy pics just now on your Sweetwater link for the coffee fund videos this week? Hey, thank you. Yeah, that's right. If you guys need, I'm sure they've got screwdriver sets, maybe guitar tool sets. If you need some picks, Sweetwater, perhaps you need a TC Ditto looper, go to the Sweetwater link, hit them up, and help support the channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you for bringing that up, Peter. You're a good man. Basswood is a tone sponge, says Paul. Well, I don't know. I like it in some guitars, you know. I don't mind it. Basswood is very cheap, used mostly for duck decoys. Not much of a guitar or tone wood. That's interesting. Duck decoys. RXR, did you? Oh, there's Rewind Electric in the chat. What's up? Got your pickups here. As a matter of fact, your pickup is the one in the white and black guitar right back there because it had the long legs on it, and I've got like 20 pickups here, but I put yours in the guitar first. So we bent the legs so it actually fits just absolutely perfectly in that guitar the way that it's set up right now. So anyways, and I plugged it in briefly yesterday. It does sound good. The guitar is not set up to play right now. I've got some issues with it that I need to clear up and stuff, but it'll be very soon. I know. Thanks for your patience making this Van Halen pickup video. Is coming soon. I don't know when exactly, but I would say within the next 3 weeks, we'll get it done. Yeah. Heaters, perfect 6.3 volt. You're talking about Marshall plexi heaters, I guess. But even though the US tap is for 120, I run a voltage regulator for the studio stuff. The Variac doesn't stabilize mains fluctuations. That's all true. Yeah. Get a good voltage regulator and set your stuff for one. I mean, I guess the brown box would be a good one, right? It's a voltage regulator, right, in it, just to hold the amp at like 110, I think. Yeah. Didn't people say that Vox AC30s were unreliable for the same reasons? Well, I think it was AC. I'm not saying old Marshalls weren't unreliable. They kind of contradicting. Maybe I did say that, but a lot of the reliability issues that people suffered were because they were just sticking tubes in the amps back in the day. You know, before the days of matching, they were just shoving them in there. Which is interesting. Probably some of the greatest music recorded was done that way. So what do we know, right? But a lot of it was luck, I think. You know, if it worked. AC30s, not so much because they're cathode bias, so you can just stick the tubes in there. There's not a biasing thing going on. But an AC30, they run real hot, and they're a bear to work on, from what I understand, kind of, and they could just be a pain in the ass. So, and you know, they went through so many eras of manufacture of different people making them and stuff, right? The Vox companies, some of them are made in different places. You know, there's Italian Voxes, and there's I think some of them are made in Italy. Most of them are made in the UK, but then there's some that, you know, amps made in the US. It was just like, who the hell is making these things? I think there was probably a lot of contract manufacture going on and all that stuff. So, you know, for the most part, I would say probably Marshalls are more reliable than old AC30s. But if an old AC30 is worked on, serviced, and set up then it's cool, generally. Which actual Marshall plexi will satisfy that 80s rock tone craving? Well, I mean, Eddie's was late 67, early 68, I think, right? When you say plexi, you know, I think what you're really asking is a 4-hole Marshall. And which one would be the best? So plexi was, when people say plexi, that means the Marshalls that had the plexi panel on them. By mid 69, that switched to an aluminum panel, essentially the same amp. So if we just say the Marshall Super Lead, that would be a better way to, you know, because then we're talking about basically from 1966 or 67 or whatever to they even made the 4 holes in the JCM 800 range. Marshall Super Lead circuit. The answer is they can all be tweaked to sound pretty damn good. You know, any of them can be tweaked by a guy like Friedman. You know, where you kind of got it figured out. So you get them, and then it's like, oh, it's got this weird cap, and let's switch that to this. And because Marshall did different things at different times, and you can make any of them sound pretty damn good. But out of the box for rock, I kind of like metal panel early 70s. You know, just the way that the filtering got a little bit stiffer, by like 69, you know, and like in particular 1969 seems to be, I hear like a lot of these amps that are like fire breathers from that era, just the gain and the way that the way the amps had evolved till that point. I'm gonna miss a super chat here. Paul, I'll come right back to you there with the CKK Scream Honey question. But yeah, at like 70, 70, 71, 72, mine's a 72. And it's just sounds amazing. It's just really balanced sounding, actually. It's just such a great amp. So I think you get a metal panel, and then, if you want 80s metal full on, you kick it with a Boss SD1 or that Scream Honey pedal that I had, or something. You get a good boost for the front end, and it's 80s metal all day long, unless you want to get into the Jose mod thing. Which, if you watch my video, but I mean, we're kind of talking about, for commercially available amps, Pt100 or, the Friedman BE. I mean, these will get you in that zone really easy too, like 80s. If we had these amps in the 80s, we would be ecstatic. Amps like Pt100s and BEs and stuff, So, which actual Marshall you're saying though? I would say if you want the real thing, you get a early 70s, you have it serviced and worked on and dialed in. I mean, listen to the Michael Nielsen video. He's got a 71. Go check it out and listen to that tone and tell me that's not, and then you could just hit it if you want to boost it at all with a tube screamer or whatever. You'll be right there. And that's the sound, right? My buddy Tracy Guns had a 50 watt Marshall Origin. He said, sounds great. And they are cheap. Yeah, agreed. I mean, that can work too, and Dave actually does a mod on those that is really cool. So by the time the mod's done, for $700 or $800 all in, you'd have a probably pretty smoking, pretty smoking amp. Budget 4K for a good old Marshall. See, that's the thing. That's the only thing. And that's why, that's where the SL68 comes into play and stuff. You can get one of those and it basically gets you right there, top hat and Plexidor, okay. Got to have your Marshall nomenclature sorted. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, Plexi just implies Plexi panel, but a lot of Marshall aficionados also know at this point that what people are referring to when they say Plexi, using as kind of a blanket term for 4-hole Marshalls. Yeah. This is a good from somebody that sounds like they know what they're talking about. Prince Westerberg. AC30 has 36 watt output from 4 EL84s. The anode dissipation is 5.5 watts. You do the math on how hard the output valves were driven. There you go. The Easy 81 rectifier tube would catch fire. Holy shit, we don't want that. So yeah, just the way the circuit was done, I guess, right? They do get hot, and they kind of, it's almost like an AC30 is like the germanium fuzz of amps. Like, did the tone change? Like, I thought it was cleaner a half an hour ago. Who turned on the fuzz? AC30s can be a little like that. But and I did go through, Dan the Tube Man says James tubes every week. I went through a lot of tubes in my top hat and Plexidor, and I would red plate them, and I can remember I had a I think you're trying to say AC30, but you wrote AC/DC, which is cool. Dan. I had a amp, I'm thinking of a Boogie Caliber 50 in the 80s, which was a really cool amp, actually. It was one of my only Mesa heads that I ever had. But the original one, they only made it for a year or so. It had EL84s in it, and it sounded great. I loved the sound of that amp until I didn't. Until 3 weeks after I got it, the tubes were red plating, and it was like, and they quickly changed the design of that amp to be 6L6s, which sounded fizzy to me and not at all the same amplifier. So I sold that amp and got rid of it because of the unreliability, but I kind of wish I'd kept it. And it did have a really great sound, but it probably just was running the tubes the same way, kind of like in a way that was, could be problematic, I guess. Okay, I guess I better go soon, guys. It's 2:13. I'll go till 2:20. We'll just make this really, God, it's a long one today. It's going to be bordering around 3 hours. What am I, nuts? I set my brown box at 110 volts. Bent Tom. Yeah, the brown box is a device for vintage amps that they make to, it's sort of a Variac style thing, but I think there's some regulation going on, I think, with it. I'm not 100% sure, but there sure better be for the price, because it's a few $100, I think. So, you know, it's meant for vintage amps to keep them happy at 110 volts. So the voltage is cool and not, you know, I just said that like cool. So the voltage is cool, like a broadly European accent. So cool. We go to a hostel. What's that from? You guys seen that YouTube video? Stay at a hostel. For breakfast, we get up, we eat a couple sausages, smoke a chocolate cigarette. We stay at a hostel. It's so cool. Okay. What else we got here? Am I missing anything? Missing anything? Any chats? Opinion on the Bogner Ecstasy. I had one. It was never my favorite amp because I found it dark. But, you know, my favorite Bogner would be the Helios. So that tells you, probably. The Ecstasy I found just to be kind of, the issue I always had with it was it sounded great in the room, and it was really fun to play through in the room, but it sort of sounded like the sound was in the cabinet. And then when I played, the juxtaposition was when I went and made a record, my friend had a 6,700 watt Plexi. And I was like, oh my God, this thing sounds like a wild horse that's like, you know, in comparison. But when I put a mic on it and I was trying to get mic'd up guitar sounds, it sounded really credible and badass in the studio, because it was when my first band got signed. I was making a record. I was like, oh, this one sounds way more polite, like on the microphone than the actual real old Marshall, which when you recorded it well and then it translated to a recording, it was like, this amp's got all this character, right? So that was always the thing that I had with it. But your mileage may vary, of course. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying for me. What is your go-to power attenuator? Well, for me, it's the Power Station from Fryette. It's a load and reamp. Pt100. Look no further. That's my favorite. Just killer. Look at Michael says, my buddy Tim Pierce drank coffee to be like Pete Thorn. I love Tim. I was talking to Tim yesterday about something. Oh, I was asking him about a good guitar repair person in LA to do a certain job that I need done. I found somebody that I'm going to give a shot this week for repair. I'll let you guys know how it works out, but I've got high hopes. Because I was just looking for somebody super local around here. I need to get to cut the nut on that black and white Van Halen guitar, actually. Simon wants to know about to buffer or not to buffer. I feel like I hate the sound with a Polytune 3. Really? Either first or last in chain. It hurts the rawness. Do I just need longer cables with the buffer? Well, what's the length of cable you're running, Simon, into the... you might like the sound of some capacitance, you know, so make sure you're running at least 20 feet in front of the buffer. So use a long guitar cable into your pedal board and try running it and see if if you take that 20-foot guitar cable and you plug it right into your amp and listen to the tone, and then you run it into the Polytune with the buffer on it and your pedals, if something's different, then something's amiss. It shouldn't really be that different, you know? So that's what I would. John Sir always recommends get the cable that you like in front of the buffer. Run that cable and then run a buffer after that. You know, of course, if you got a fuzz involved, then you got to take that into account, or a Univibe, because then you're gonna have a couple patch cables and things, or a wah or whatever you don't like with a buffer. You know, in front of it. Andre says, what about poplar for tone wood? I hope I explained that good enough, by the way, with the buffer thing. That whatever length of cable you run in front of the buffer and the amount of capacitance that creates, that cable, that'll stay intact. And then the buffer essentially sort of decouples everything after that on the way to your amp. So yeah, maybe you're not running, maybe if you're running a 10-foot cable and then a buffer, you know, you might find it too bright or too whatever with the buffer after that. But if you're running run 20 feet or 30 feet, you're going to hear some roll off, and then the buffer's just going to decouple after that. So you're definitely going to hear anything above 18 feet, people say. And that's going to vary. Different cables have different capacitance specs and all that. Andre's asking about poplar. You know, I think a lot of companies used poplar in the, I think it wasn't the Van Halen 5150 guitar made out of poplar in the 80s. It kind of seems like an alder substitute. It's similar, I guess. Is it? folks out there. I know it's uglier. It's got a green kind of thing to it, so they won't use it for C3s generally. It's got no kind of very light, barely discernible grain, and all that. So I would say, to me, I think maybe my Jackson might be made out of poplar, which I always loved, that guitar. So it was a medium weight and sounded good. Sounded like Alder to me. Am I crazy? Yeah. This is a good question. I don't have a great answer for this. Diamond Head and Tigers of Pantang. I would like to listen to more. It's John Sykes, right? Tigers of Pantang. What pedal would you use to boost an old Marshall for those tones? I mean, like I said, back then there only was a few things. So if they were boosting Marshalls, they were probably either using a Distortion Plus, a Tube Screamer, or a Boss, OD1 or SD1, right? That was it. I mean, Color Sound Overdriver, literally you can count them on one hand, the amount of pedals that were out to boost. So try something like that. But I would say get a JHS Bonsai, which is like every Tube Screamer plus the OD1 circuit in one box. You can, if you can't boost your Marshall with that and get like a cool 70s or 80s tone, I don't know what to say. It's a cool pedal for being able to get all those different sounds. I missed a super chat right now, and that was from this person right here. Mark, thank you. Great Sunday Live. Thank you for being here. And I am going to split pretty soon. I got to go get some lunch. But okay, let's see what else. Just a couple more. Let's talk about guitar. Just a little bit more, and then I'll go. My knees hurt. Killer show today. Thanks. I appreciate it. And you're always here. I do appreciate you being here. Thank you, man. Pt100 is on the shopping list. Hey, the new one is beautiful. For those that didn't join, I was saying that we brought out a new version of the Pt100 with the Tolex from the PT15. The knobs, the same kind of panel. So it's an updated look. Same amp, but updated look. And I think it's beautiful. Really looks beautiful. Check it out on the Sir website if you haven't seen it. Can somebody post a link to that? Would somebody mind posting a link? I could go find it. I could be not so lazy and do it myself. But then I feel like I'm going too far. I'm tooting my own horn too much. What else we got here? Mike says he just got a Moore radar. That's a good on a budget little IR loader there. Yeah, you betcha. Stephen Douglas says he digs how I say boogie. Oh yeah, Mesa boogie, eh? You betcha. Sure. Oh yeah, they're great, eh? What else? Awesome show. Great chat, says Keith. Thank you. Thank you guys for all being here. You guys are starting to duck out. You guys, that's enough. I got to go eat. I know. I feel the same way. Maybe I should just go. Should I just get a Cortex and use a Cortex on my Marshall 7250 watt? How would I do it and keep it quiet while modeling it? Keep it quiet while modeling it. Oh, well, okay, Braxall. If you want to do two more super chats now. So let me answer this really quick. Use a line out box and a load box. You need something like the Sir reactive load to run the amp into. You can take the unfiltered line out of the reactive load into the quad Cortex, and you can make a profile of just your amplifier, or a copy, whatever they call it, a capture of just the amp. And I won't get more into it than that. There's a very simple explanations on how to hook it up on the unit itself, on the quad Cortex. Tells you exactly how to plug everything in, but you need to have a load box. That's the only thing. You could use the 2 notes one, they call that thing, the new one, whatever. It's like $300. You could use that, or you could just use a Sir reactive load. You could use a power station, something like that, and that'll allow you to load the amp down, and then you can essentially copy the sound of the amp, put it in a quad Cortex, more or less. You heard me and do it in the videos for the quad Cortex that I made. A couple more super chats. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day, says Melanie. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for doing the top chat. Thank you. And one more here. Live to play guitar. When you arrange your songs, what structure do you usually use? I don't really think about it that way. Danny says Pete is hilarious today. Thanks. I don't know. I'm getting crazier in my old age. That's all it is. Just $0 left to give, right? Live to play guitar. When arrange your songs, what structure? I don't think about it like that. Honestly, I just kind of go as I go, and I guess I sort of follow the. It's got to have a flow to it, a momentum. like an arc to the melody and to the way the intro builds into the next part and then goes and eventually ends up at a chorus. And I grew up listening to rock and pop music or whatever, like everybody, I guess. So I became interested in that and aware of it, I guess. And then kind of just the ebb and flow of, and the melody should lead somewhere and it should take you on a little ride and you should feel like you're watching a movie, but listening. Right. So that's how I think about it. Honestly, it's anything beyond that, the structure and stuff, I don't really follow. It is interesting. Having said that, though, I recommend this sometimes as a songwriting experiment to copy the structure of famous songs. So there's little games you can play. If you're not really familiar with how songs are structured and stuff, the little things you can do. You can go and find a song you like and then go, okay, so the intro is this long, the verse is this long, then it goes to a B section, then it hits the chorus, pre-chorus, whatever, and then it hits the chorus, and then it does a little re-intro, there's a double verse, and then and you write it all down, right? And go, okay, this many bars or whatever, and then you try and build a song with that structure, but not copying anything else. You just use that structure, and it kind of teaches you a little bit about, oh, I see, there's a breakdown right here, and kind of, or there's a half verse after the solo where it breaks down, and then there's a 2-beat break, and then the chorus kicks in big, and it's a double chorus. Maybe it modulates up a whole step for the end chorus, that classic trick, and then it's a fade. Or it's not a fade, it's a hard stop or whatever, Copy all that as a songwriting experiment, but write your own song using that structure. That's a fun thing to do. Teaches you about, you might structure a song in a different way that you wouldn't have thought of. Show Me Dead Beast says, real quick, is a broken Gibson always better playing after the repair, do you find? Mine was. Actually, my 335, it tuned better than ever after the headstock broke, and Norik Ranson worked on the nut, actually, here in LA. If you don't have any experience, thanks for the great vids. Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if it's always better, but there's, okay, let's say you break a headstock on a Gibson, right? The nuts on Gibson, the nuts on Gibsons aren't always perfect out of the factory. So, you might want to take it to a tech and just have the nut done. But if you've never had that done and you get a headstock break, now you kind of have to. They're going to fix it and put a new nut on. And if it's a great tech, the way they cut that nut might be better than it ever was from the factory. That is what happened on my 335. It would always intonate kind of funny, and it just never was great. It was a little sour all the time. And then after the headstock break, I had it fixed. Still was funny. I took it to a different person than I had to do the headstock repair. So Norik Ranson looked at the nut and he said, yeah, I'm going to build out the front of the nut a little bit. It's a little weird. So he put this little strip of graphite that's invisible on the front of the nut to build out where the string made contact with the nut, and then cut it just perfect. So it's just the right height, and now it's perfect. The guitar intonates perfectly. It plays more in tune and better than it ever did. And I don't notice any difference in the tone and all that. It seems fine. It seems like it's basically the guy that did the headstock repair did this really cool maple dowel where he inlaid maple into the back of the headstock to make it very strong. So it's certainly stronger than it ever was. It's a very thin, kind of one of those thin, wide early 60s Gibson affairs as far as the neck goes. So, that really helped having having that rebuilt. Did I miss a super chat? No, I don't think I did. Okay, it's probably a good time to cut out. Pete needs food, says Joe. Yeah, I'm getting crazy. You're right. Some Gibsons don't have nuts. EVH pickup shootout soon. I promise it's coming soon. Got that guitar. It's got to get set up and all that before we can look at doing this. And then I just have to book a tech for the day. And it'll be a thing where, okay, you're coming Saturday all day for whatever. And then we are all in at that point. And then it's like, okay, now we got to commit to doing this. And it's going to be nuts. So, yeah, Les Pauls always seem to be out of tune. I can't handle it. If you get it worked on by the right guy, a Gibson, it can be fantastic. Right guy or girl. Fantastic tech. Whoever you can find out there. I didn't mean to be sexist. Yeah, whoever works on guitars, it does a great job and knows how to cut a nut properly. That's the big one. Getting it the right height, making the slots just so, I don't know if they fan them or what they do, but so that it'll stay in tune better. And then maybe a little bit of the Big Ben's nut sauce or the stuff from D'Addario or some graphite in the nut. And you can get them. It's just, they require more than a lot of other guitars. That's all. G string is usually a culprit. Fretless Ed says, I totally agree, as well as the B. B string can be difficult. And I always find if you tune the B just a hair flat, the open note, check it at the 3rd fret, and many times it'll be in tune at the 3rd fret if the open shows flat. You can mitigate that by either building the nut out a little bit or by cutting the nut as low as possible on the 2nd string. and it'll generally help with that thing. But to try it if you haven't tried it, look on the tuner, fret at the 3rd fret, the D note, right, on the 2nd string, and then look at the open note. A lot of times on Gibsons, the open note will be a hair flat when it's in tune at the 3rd fret. How often do you play the open B string? Not as often as you probably play every other note on the net. So I tend to tune to that 3rd fret, the D, kind of a little secret thing, you know, and it makes the 3rd sweeter when you play like a, you know, across the 3rd fret or 5th fret, or what am I saying? Across the 3 strings, the bar shape, you know, to play the, you know, 5th fret root bar chord or whatever. It'll just make the B sound sweeter and more in tune. Eddie Van Halen did this, by the way, tuned to, you know, those fretted notes so that it makes those chords running with the devil. Right, it makes the thirds in tune. And you got to tune the B a little flat to do that. That is my last little piece of advice. And I'm going to go. I got to get lunch. You guys rock on. I'll see you next week. Thanks again to everybody for being here. Appreciate it.